see that it's 8 o'clock, so I would call the meeting to order. And if you would lead us in the pledge with the flag there.
Yep. I pledge allegiance to
The flag of the United States of America
and to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, with that, we will call the June 3rd regular school board meeting to order. Member Clerk, could you please take a roll call?
Yes. Member Corcoran.
Here.
Member Corcoran is here. Member Ketto.
Here.
Member Ketto is here. Member Olson.
Here.
Member Olson is here. Member Rayfield.
Here.
Member Rayfield is here. Member Tyson.
Here.
Member Tyson is here. Member Peterson.
Here.
Member Peterson is here. And Member Luthner is here. All present.
All right. With that, I would move on to agenda item number 3, and I would entertain a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Ketto, so moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Member Clerk? Oh, any discussion? Hearing none. Member Clerk?
Member Ketto.
Yes.
Member Ketto votes yes. Member Olson.
Aye.
Member Olson votes aye. Member Rayfield.
Aye.
Member Rayfield votes aye. Member Tyson. Member Tyson.
Oops, sorry. Aye.
Member Tyson votes aye. Member Peterson.
Aye.
Member Peterson votes aye. Member Luthner votes aye. Member Corcoran.
Aye.
Member Corcoran votes aye.
Thank you, Member Clerk. I think you'll have a busy evening again with the remote layout. With that, we will move on to scheduled and unscheduled visitors. I do not believe we had any emails. So we'll move right on to student achievement. First up is the Community Education Director, Corey McKinnon. Dr. Massey, did you want to do an intro? Steve, I think you're muted.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're super excited to get an update on our community education program. We have Director McKinnon and some of his team members with him tonight. So time for our annual update from community education. Corey, take it away.
Thank you, Dr. Massey, Board President Peterson, and members of the school board. We're excited to have an agenda spot here to provide an update. It's actually been coming up on 2 years since we've last had this opportunity because of all things that were shook up about a year ago due to COVID. We were making a few adjustments at that time as we were coming out of a school year and prepping for summer. And oddly enough, we had the overview topic for that meeting was going to be childcare. And we thought it was only fitting that we would retain that topic for tonight, given all of the adjustments that we've made in the last 15 months by way of childcare. We certainly made a number of adjustments in all of our programming, but childcare has seen its day in the light, if you will, by all things community education. What I'm going to do is share my screen here. We've got a presentation, and I've got a couple of guests on with me tonight. So if you give me just a moment to share. And Dr. Massey, can you see the presentation?
Corey, we're good to go.
Excellent. Thank you. So before we move into our topic, just again, a brief overview of all of the things that we offer our community in community ed. We have youth and adult programs and adult basic education, of course, childcare, which will be our topic for this evening, athletics and the use of facility scheduling. We've managed the pool. We've got early childhood and community preschool, and then internally a marketing and technology support department. And I can assure you that even over the past 18 months, when things on the outside were paused, things never were paused on the inside, which was a great thing to keep things going. And all of these programs providing opportunities for our community in some fashion or another. I want to take you back to an overview of one of the first projects that I took on when I first arrived here, which is it's hard to believe it's been 5 years. And that was the development of our community education purpose statements and our value statements. And little did we know we were heading into the storm of a pandemic, like all of us. And the whole rationale behind this was to really tease out what is the purpose, the why behind what we do, which became the lifeblood and has since become the lifeblood of our work, but also to ground us when having to make challenging decisions, as we all know we have to do on a daily basis without a pandemic. And if you notice, the first two bullet points here, they rang true over the course of the last 15 months and served us well to continually go back to. These are our tasks. This is what we must continue to do. Identify the learning needs of our community and provide the innovative, cost-effective, and engaging lifelong educational, social, and recreational opportunities. We feel that that's our mission, whether there's a pandemic or there's no pandemic. And as we look at the value statements that we developed, we've used these statements many times over when making decisions about where to offer programming, what type of programming to offer, how do we leverage the support of our community, how do we use the facilities. And if you notice the first bullet point, and this was prior to the pandemic, providing safe, supportive, and caring opportunities for all. Looking back, I am extremely grateful that we led with the word safe, knowing that we were provided a multitude of guidance from MDH, DHS, NDE, you name the acronym, we got guidance from it. And safety was at the forefront of every decision that we did, or that we made, but also knowing that our community needs to not go away. And that certainly never rang more true than in the world of childcare. As we all know, when the world shut down, if you will, it didn't completely, and there was still a great need there. And so tonight, I'm excited to bring on board our school-age care coordinator, Nancy Seifert, and our assistant coordinator, Sue Wadija, who are joining me tonight to provide this presentation on childcare, an overview of where we are, where we were, and where we're headed going forward. These two have done an incredible job navigating the waters that we've never ventured down before. And we've gotten pretty good at making programmatic shifts by way of facility, by way of registration. And these two are definitely two experts in the room that I'm excited to bring before you tonight to help present this topic here at the board meeting. So with that, I will turn it over to Sue and Nancy to kick off this portion of the presentation.
So I've got my microphone and my camera turned on. Good evening, everyone. Although I'm still seeing an FL for my face. So if that's the case, we'll go on and you can still hear what I have to say. I'm excited to be here. I know that the last time I presented, I think was in like 2015. It was before Corey anyway. And I would just like to say that we are excited to be still a part of this wonderful district. I've been here for many years and never a dull moment, but this year has topped them all. We would just like to, the first slide that I'm going to talk about here is just an overview of childcare and what we do. We provide care for working families for their kids. And again, to reiterate what Corey said about safety, it's safety first. And it is just wonderful that all of these kids can attend at their home school sites. Then there's the two different seasons. And right now we're gearing up for our summer season, even though we all know we're still at that wrap-up point of the school year. But yet we have been planning for summer for quite some time. This summer, we will continue to wear masks until June 30th or until 70% of the population in Minnesota is vaccinated 16 and over. So that's going to be a little different with summer school, but we have notified parents and all of that. And so everybody should be prepared. We are open from 6 to 6. I used to call a few of my students the 6 at 6, and they like to come in and jump rope. It was always an interesting time early on when they wanted to be active right off the bat. And there are some kids that come in and rest, so we kind of have that little bit of chill time in the morning. But and then of course we have non-school days and summer care and inclement weather day care. And then the accessibility to our Little Rangers preschool program is greater with offering childcare for those 4-year-olds just before and after on those Little Rangers school days. So, yeah. So I guess you're on next.
So this is kind of an overview of how we shifted and adjusted and worked our way through the pandemic. So starting last March, we provided childcare for emergency care workers, and we cared for them at 2 different schools, at Wyoming Elementary and Forest View Elementary. It's been a while, hard to remember. Then in the summer, we cared for families at our 3 locations, Lino Lakes, Wyoming, and Forest Lake Elementary in town, and adjusted to guidelines as they changed throughout the summer. Masks were not required until July, and so we made adjustments in our preparedness plan throughout that. When school started up again, we started with regular, quote unquote, regular before and after school care, and then had to shift to distance learning, hybrid learning, back to in-person, back to distance. A couple different elementary schools went into a 2-week quarantine where we provided distance learning just at those buildings. Kind of our process of dealing with that was we would set up the registration system to allow families to register. At the same time, figuring out the maximum amount of staff that we could have working to cover from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. That would determine how many families we could accept. And the goal was always to accept as many children into childcare as we could. That varied with each change and adjustment. And we just made determinations each time that we shifted into those different childcare modes.
And I would just like to say we've had just a great learning time about all of the different programs, departments, whatever you want to say, in the school district, and worked well with all of them. There were a few bumps in the road, as there always are with new programs, but just an amazing team of people here working in Forest Lake schools. I can't say enough about how we depended on each other, how we, persevered through a really challenging time, and we've gained, a lot of insight, understanding, and appreciation for all of those people who worked so hard to make it a successful place for kids to be, not only just learning during the day, but also, then also being cared for before and after during the school age care part of the day. Just an eye opener for us, for staff. And I can't say enough about what an amazing bunch of people work here in the Forest Lake area schools. And what an appreciation for the jobs everyone does in this district. And we've heard it from parents too, how much it's been appreciated all the way around. So I'd just like to say thank you for everyone working together for these kiddos like we do every day. That's our business, but we really made it stand out this time around.
So with these slides, we kind of want to highlight how much a mask break was appreciated by the kids and the staff. They could take their masks off to eat, of course, but then also to play outside, to have recess or activities outside. And the little girls jumping on the potato sack race highlights the one big event we were able to do last summer. The highlight of our summer is always field trips. The kids love to take a field trip every week and also go to the pool and swim. And of course, we couldn't do those things. So we applied for and got a community education mini grant, which we used to buy some carnival games and prizes, and then took those carnival games around to each of the 3 sites and had a carnival day outside with the kids so they could have that one special day kind of to round out their summer.
And this summer, we're excited to be offering the same curriculum that aligns with the K through 8 programming called Second Step. It's a social emotional learning curriculum, and we're going to kick that off this summer. Our child care support specialist is new to the job, and so this is her first attempt to train out the staff on this, and she's got a slide presentation ready to go for June 11th when we train summer staff and set up for summer and then start again on Monday. So we're here most of the time, but we are very excited. This is so timely with everyone being, what do I want to say, a little bit trying to get back into those friendship pieces, trying to get back to a sense of normalcy. You know, the kids in the picture there are looking at you with those cute faces, and even with masks on, you can tell they're smiling. I mean, their eyes are just telling it all. But that the social emotional learning and skills that will be taught, we're going to try to do it at least twice a week this summer with our groups and then continue on through the school year. So we're excited to have invested in that curriculum and be on board and talking the same language as the school district. So just a good time. We're also excited to be bringing back some field trips and things this summer, but we are taking it slow entry and then so having some on-site visitors and then going from there to the pool and in August, some outdoor trips. So, yeah.
This picture here was taken during hybrid childcare here at the Ed Center. On Maroon days, the Gold students would be attending at the Ed Center, and on Gold days, the Maroon kids would be attending at the Ed Center. But also, COVID-19 did impact our enrollment. If you look at the numbers to the side, the top numbers represent the school year starting 2018-19, then last year, and then this current school year, which was completely impacted by COVID. And then our summer registrations, you can definitely see prior to COVID, then it dropped, but we're very happy to say that the numbers are bouncing back this summer, coming back. And we anticipate that that will be the case for the school year, that will continue to grow our numbers back to what we have had in the past as people go back to work.
And then just some of the fun times that we have. Of course, safety is our first priority, and then fun comes second, but we want them to enjoy their time with us and be safe all at the same time. They like to spend time with their friends. I even had a special parent request earlier on about summer saying, can my daughter's friends be in her same group? Well, we're still trying to program with consistent pods just to cut down any exposures that might happen because this population is not vaccinated. And so that's an important part for kids. Outside play, science projects, that's the picture there. That was one that was done during spring break. Kids had just a blast down at Lino Lakes with the science projects they were doing there. And of course, science is near and dear to my heart. So that's what I like to see happening. Arts and crafts, of course, there are millions of arts and crafts, and we do quite a bit of that. Board games and building blocks. If you haven't seen any of the kids building with Kaplas out at sites, you really need to check that out. That is quite an engineering feat that they do with the blocks. Gym time, of course, is always a fun one. And like I mentioned before, our summer field trips and on-site guests. So we keep their days packed. If kids are actively engaged, there are fewer behavior problems and better times for all. Applause. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy and Sue. As we wrap up, we'll wrap up the presentation. I got a few closing thoughts here before we get to questions and comments. But as you can see, there's a lot going on at each of the buildings on every given day. When we offered the hybrid care here at the Ed Center, and also too when visiting sites, what's music to our ears are when kids are excited to arrive and when they hate to leave. And that happens a lot. And that's due to a number of factors. Number one, our staff have a heart and passion for this work. When you see how they bring in the children and care for them and provide these engaging opportunities for them as though they were their own children while keeping them safe. Also, too, the thoughtful planning that goes into structuring a full day, and especially with some of these full days amidst the shutdown, and how to do that with limited opportunities to engage in field trips or to even be near each other. The creativity behind what our staff was able to accomplish in the last year is truly amazing. And I know Sue, Nancy, and I have had our share of on-screen time via Google Meetings and roundtables of building these programs to get them off and running, and doing so in what felt like very little time. And there's much to be said about the kudos that they deserve from the leadership from their program. Just a couple of overviews here as we wrap up. As you know, we offer 3 seasonal catalogs. What I'm excited to present is that we did not miss a beat in the sending out of any one of our catalogs. And I can tell you that that was not the norm. A number of times I would sit in director meetings with my colleagues, and they would do kind of some just broad surveying, how many of you are offering catalogs? And there were very few that were offering their catalogs during the pandemic. And those that were, most of them were offering them in a very modified format. Maybe it was a postcard or some smaller brochure, or going to an online only. And we offered 3 very comprehensive catalogs. Now, not everything ran, but we went with the intent that it will run, we'll follow the guidance. And if it doesn't, then we'll adjust accordingly. The feedback that we received from the community was thank you. It kept folks engaged. It let them know that we're still here. And as you can see from that last presentation of the child care overview, and what was riddled throughout these catalogs was the visualization of the purpose and value statements that we truly do aim to adhere to when going forward with programming. Over the last 14 months, our staff they cannot get enough kudos. And much like the rest of the district, our community ed staff has just been flexible, willing to adapt. As a director, never once did I have even the slightest concern of going to any one of our coordinators in all of our programs, and especially here in childcare, to say, okay, we need to look at something differently. And it was continuously welcomed or met with a very welcome, okay, we can do this together. We did a lot of rearranging of programs, and we remained open and successful while many other community education programs and pools remain closed. We're proud of that. And not to say, like I said, that we didn't do that without following guidance. We followed it to the T, but we're always thinking, how can we do this within the guidelines that we're provided? Took a lot of hard work and a lot of thoughtful planning, but our community deserves it. The Forest Lake area is the best, and they deserve the best that we can give them. A couple of feedback that we've seen, feedback points that we've received from folks, and I'm certainly not going to go through and read all of these, but just people letting us know they value the Zoom classes. I know that we've learned many times over that this Zoom format of a community ed class has been very well received, and something that we're definitely going to take with us in spite of the pandemic, or wrapping up and moving forward, because it provides a lot of flexibility for folks who want to engage in that format. So it did force our hand to learn things, some new best practices that we're happy to take with us in order to continue to meet the needs of the community. Again, people loving the virtual classes, people loving the class, wishing that they were longer. We love that type of feedback. Love community ed classes. Please continue to offer them. And this was a staff photo of our leadership team and our office staff. We took with one of our Google meetings that we had, or many Google meetings. We were wearing our community ed t-shirts and just giving a wave. It was the best staff photo we could get 6 months ago. But still, that smile did not leave folks' faces, even in spite of some challenging work and some difficult decisions that we had to make along the way. Lastly, I just want to share with you, every year we try to go through a book study with our community education team as by way of internal PD. We've done a lot of work in customer service, and we've developed customer service standards and how we consistently manage customer service. The book that I chose for our team here heading into 2021 was really reflective of, I think, working from home, and the title was catchy, is Be Amazing or Go Home. And it really revolves around how to be your best to produce the best team. And I can say, hands down, the team that we have and I get to work with every day is truly, truly amazing. The leadership that we have, being creative, thinking outside the box, and taking every challenging phone call and knowing that sometimes, somebody may be upset about something and it might not even be related to our program, but how we can navigate those waters to make their life better, because we're the person on the phone with them in that moment. So this has been a very good book study for us to think about things and how we come out of the pandemic with everything ready to go. And that was the tagline on our most recent summer catalog brochure was, you're ready, we're ready, let's go. So with that, I will end the presentation and open it up to the board for any comments or questions. And we just thank you so much for the opportunity to present here tonight.
Member Tyson? Sorry, I was muted.
I saw Rob. Okay. Well, thank you, Corey, so much for highlighting childcare. And Sue and Nancy, you are a huge part of all that passion and creativity. We are so fortunate to have such a thriving childcare after what circumstances prevailed last year. I had so many parents thank me. I'm like, I will pass that on. And we're so appreciative for how you guys pivoted. You called people back. They were stressing about childcare, and you fulfilled that, got them in or told them, talked to them. That one-on-one was so important to so many parents having to go to work, especially the essential workers. I really liked how you highlighted the activities and described them. That it just looks like such a fun-packed day, and how you were creative in bringing in the carnival last summer when there wasn't really anything else they could do. And also, I really like the social emotional curriculum being implemented. I think that's going to be a really important thing to have going this summer when kids are getting back to all those activities and they're back with their friends and peer groups. So thank you for that. And to thank all of your staff as well. We're so appreciative and thankful for our Forest Lake area school child care.
All right, thank you, Member Tyson. Member Raphael?
Yeah, hi. I just wanted a couple of things. One, I wanted to thank you for having so many pictures of the kids in the presentation. I think, sometimes as a board member, you get a little bit abstracted as you're looking through policy or thinking about a building project that's going in. And then you see those little kids and, you see them interacting and figuring stuff out and being with their friends and learning, and really kind of centers you back about what this mission that we're on is all about, so I just want to thank you for that. I also thought it was funny that one of your reviews had 12 exclamation marks in 3 lines. That's a pretty good ratio, I thought. So good job with that. And so I just want to thank you guys for all the work. It's been a crazy screwed up year, and being able to bring people together under such duress is such a great thing that you've done for this community.
Thank you, Member Raphael. I see Member Luthner has her hand up.
Yes, thank you. And Corey, I do have the pleasure of having the committee meetings with you guys. So just some of this is more the public forum. I do appreciate that you're reporting in that we're keeping some of the virtual options, since that, might as well take the positives we got out of the negative situation. And again, a lot of what Member Tyson says, I appreciate the insight into what actually happens at the before and after school care. It's nice details to know, because community members come up and ask us things, and we can't always just say, here's someone else's number. You need to know a couple things and then say, and here's someone else's number. So it's nice to have a couple concrete examples. So thank you for including those. And finally, I really appreciate that you're doing a book study. That is above and beyond the core mission, obviously, but it's a great leadership trait. And I appreciate that you're doing that with your team. Even just even if you'll hate the book, it's a common experience, but I'm sure you pick good ones and pull out great lessons. And it's just the little extra things that build the team that really make it a group that wants to stay together. So I'm really happy to see that you're doing that. And I know a couple other directors also do it. So great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Luthner. Any other? Member Olson, I see you have your hand up.
Alex has his hand up too. I'll go real quick, Alex. This is probably a question for Nancy and Sue. First of all, great presentation. I just want to thank you guys for your dedication and flexibility. You really kept our district afloat during the pandemic. I just wondered, with the 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. timeline, what do staff shifts look like?
I can speak to that. When it's 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., if it's a full day program, then we can offer straight shifts. Otherwise, most of our people are split shifts. We have a minimum of 2-hour shifts. And so we gain a lot of people that are either younger, just starting out, wanting experience with kids, or people who are semi-retired and want a few extra hours. I think it works out best for those people, but we have several of our site managers and our assistant managers that have more hours in the day. They have 6.5 for our assistants and 8 for our site managers. Of course, those people, we don't have as much turnover with those people. But as far as shifts, it has to be with the right person, the right fit. And I can say we just have an amazing team of people too. I have never had a dull moment in this program, and I can honestly say I've enjoyed working with all of the staff. Yes, there are challenges right now with hiring for all short shift people and people who aren't highly trained as paras. We give a lot of training, I've got to say, in the year, but we're not asking for college educated people. In the summer, of course, we do hire some people who are just out of college or attending a college. A lot of them either in educational fields, psychology fields, those types of occupations where people really want to, some pediatricians maybe, right? So anyway, that's where we draw our people from. So in the summer, it's the younger people that like to be outside and moving around with kids for a lot of hours in a day. And that's a good thing. We need energy, definitely, when it's the all-day program. So, good question. Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for your comments. So, appreciate it.
Thank you, Member Olson, for that. Member Ketto, sorry, I didn't have the folks up on the side so that I could see hands up for people who weren't on my main screen. So, Member Ketto, what do you have?
Oh, that's okay. I don't mind to wrap this up. I just want to say a couple of things. I have to preface this with, we've lived in the community for 29 years. We came from South Minneapolis up here. And so I raised 3 kids. My wife and I raised 3 kids in this community, and we all participated in community ed throughout. Also, I want to add a footnote that I'm also on the community advisory board. So, I mean, there's something there for me, but a couple of things. One, I love the comment about we only have 2 seasons, summer and school year, which reminds me of the joke that there's 2 seasons in Minnesota, road construction and summer, or winter and road construction. So I thought that was kind of funny that there's only 2 seasons, but we really work all year. Corey and all of his staff, congratulations. And I'm really proud of the catalog that you put out. I think that's a wonderful thing. And I love being on the community advisory board. I know that we have pulled in all kinds of people from outside the district to experience what we have here. And I know there have been very many positive comments about, I wish I kind of lived in this community. I mean, all the wonderful things you have and the things you do. So congratulations on that. Thank you very much from me and from all of my family for everything you do.
Yeah, thank you all so much. We appreciate it, and that appreciation is a two-way street. We're able to do what we're able to do because we have a supportive school board behind our backs too, and we want to thank all of the board members who are continuously promoting our programming and speaking so well of what we do here, and reverse communicating back out to the community what we really do have to offer. It certainly goes a long way, and it is a kudos to, like I said, the team and taking the time. I think that's one of the biggest things we learned through all of this in the last 18 months is when you put forth the time and energy to really iron out all the different ways that you can potentially do something, you land on the most clear guidance and expectations for your own program. And there were a few times where I had to, almost choking back tears, tell a parent, we aren't able to offer childcare at this time for your particular circumstance. But it didn't come with any of a quick response, and it wasn't without the backing of many hours of trying to figure out how to get that done. And fortunately, we weren't in those modes all that long. And once we were able to get folks in, we got them in like that minute. And the relief and joy on people's faces, it's, when you're talking to them when they stop by, or you can hear it on the phone, it was worth every minute we put in to develop the programming that we had. So thank you for your support, and we're happy to have this opportunity to present for you this evening.
All right. Thank you, Corey. Any other comments, questions? See nothing. Thank you again, and absolutely, Member Kettle, the applause is definitely deserved. Probably better received when we're in person. So we will move on with our agenda then. We'll move to positive happenings. And I would like to start out myself, and I'm going to steal a little bit of Member Luthner's thunder, I'm sure, because I saw her there. But we had the band concert for the 7th graders outdoors. It was so cool to be outdoors and see the concert in person and watch those kids play together for what was likely the first time for many of them in the group setting with everyone together. It was just great. They performed phenomenally. And I really hope that we keep that outdoor opportunity open for the future. And with that, I would open it up for anyone else. Anybody else have any positive happenings to share? Member Luthner, I saw you put your hand up first.
I have more than one kid that does stuff. So the band concert was great. That is top of my list. And they were really good for such an odd year of learning and not really being able to play together as many days as every other 7th grade band has learned together. And I'm looking forward to marching band in the future. But I also shout out to Lino. There's a couple teachers there that have put on a wax museum every year. It's kind of a first step to a research project. So they research a person and then they memorize a little script and pretend to be that person, like they dress up. And it's a great opportunity for the kids in 3rd grade. So usually it's all in the cafeteria and you can walk around and see all the kids and their different presentations. This year they went virtual. So they had a Zoom meeting for all the parents and they had it in their maker's space. They have enough room for their whole group and each kid just took a turn. So I missed the old way, but this way I could actually hear the kids and I didn't miss anybody. So wandering around the room, sometimes you miss somebody. But it was a nice pivot to what we're doing now. And I think more parents were able to join because it was 25 minutes join a Zoom instead of really take a half day off work to show up and be there and go after. And then as a proctor, I helped do the AP exams this season, and watching how many kids we have taking those exams is fantastic. It's such a good opportunity. And by the end, I was recognizing kids because there was the same kid taking calculus as taking AP bio as taking statistics. So you started to recognize some faces, and by the end, they were so ready to be done. But it was a great experience to just see them take this kind of jump into the next phase of life. And there was no exam with fewer than, I think, 20. And the biggest was over 60. So that's a great opportunity for students, and I'm glad that so many are taking advantage of it. So that concludes my report.
Thank you, Member Luthner, and then we'll move to Member Rayfield.
Yes, thank you. I mean, for me, I just I'm feeling a little bit exhausted and nostalgic at the end of this year. It's been a long haul, right? It's been a long haul. I mean, if you think back, it seems like about 50 years ago that we first shut down and also went to remote learning, which we had been working on, for a couple of years because of the snow emergencies. But then all of a sudden we were going every day and everybody was thrust into this fire. And and to think about all the stuff that went on this year, and we've had times in our district where stuff has been hard to get through, but never has it ever been where everybody's working together to get us through it like it has been this year. And so I just think that's such a positive happening, that we're not just seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. We're at the end of the tunnel, and it's just a really nice feeling. It's not a feeling of jumping up and down with joy, but it's a feeling of relief, like a heavy blanket's been lifted off you. And so much work has gone into this year. I don't need to remind people of that, but I just think it's such a positive happening that we made it. And not only did we make it, if you look at like our equity work and our work on the stadium and the work on curriculum, we have continued to move forward while all this stuff has been trying to drag us backwards. And we're going to come out of this year. I'm going to leave it at that. And we're looking at a new year next year, which is going to be great. So that's all I had.
Thank you, Member Rayfield. With that, we'll move to Member Olson.
Yes, thank you. So Mark lives in the townhouses by the middle school. So we're walking by the middle school all the time. And for the first year he was here, we didn't see a single person using those gorgeous ball fields behind the middle school. And I thought, oh, that is so sad, but it is COVID. So it is so fantastic to see those fields filled with teams now. So we've seen a softball game and a baseball game, and there's gym classes out there all the time. So it's just really great to see them being outside and using those fields.
Thank you, Member Olson. We'll move to Member Tyson.
Wow, Rob, that I concur with all of that. And I kind of could get choked up when you were talking. I mean, it's been such an emotional year and a roller coaster and up and down, and just seeing all the challenges that our staff, our administrators, our principals, teachers, students, parents all have had to deal with, and the hoops they've had to jump. It's just been overwhelming at times for me, and I don't have a huge role. But you're right, we have gone forward. We've done our equity innovation labs. We've done work on our strategic plan. We're going to have a workshop this summer for school board members to set goals for that. And so, yeah, it's just really good to be have COVID in the rearview mirror. But I just want to quickly mention that, as well as Member Olson, I've been over to watch some of the baseball games at Fenway and over for there's 12 seniors, I want to say, on the high school softball team. And so they've been having some fun games. I have to admit, I just watch partial games. I usually have my dog with, and I'm having a walk at the same time. But there is just so much optimism and positive stuff going on. It was fun to see, and I get a little sad for things that I haven't been able to go to, but Famous Dave's came and served the seniors the luncheon for what's usually the senior picnic, and typically board members can come and attend that and serve and just feel all that excitement and energy for those graduates and how excited they are. So that was, and we want to thank Famous Dave's. I don't know how long he's provided that barbecue, but the kids always really love it. The library, the Forest Lake Library is back to their pre-pandemic hours, so that's exciting to know that. And I also want to mention that we do have the virtual Everyone Belongs on the 15th of June, and I hope people will take part in that. There's a presentation from the state demographer. So that concludes my little positive happenings. Thank you.
I thought I got unmuted, but I see I did not. So with that, we'll move to Member Ketto.
That's what I thought you said. I read your lips, but I thought that's what it was. I just have a couple of things. One, I have been so impressed. I mean, not having children right now in school, but the prom and the story that came out on NPR. I mean, what a wonderful thing. And I mean, what a great deal. And I loved being a marketing person. I loved Masquerade. You know, I thought that was just a tremendous marketing tool to use. Also, graduation, that we actually this year can finally have another graduation live and in person. So that's tremendous. I'll end with just a little plug. I also serve on the Northeast Metro 916 board, and their golf tournament is coming up on June 15th. For anybody interested in golfing with me, you're more than welcome to join me on June 15th and golf in the tournament for Northeast Metro. But it's been great. As everybody has said, it's just wonderful to finally be able to have masks off pretty much and be able to get out in the community. And I see so much positive stuff happening. I mean, there's so much positive energy out there. So that concludes my report.
Thank you, Member Ketto. And I see Member Corcoran has her hand up.
Hi, thank you, Jeff. I also even being out in the community with no masks, people are so much friendlier and everyone's smiling. It's just a breath of fresh air. It's just the coming together of the community. I really feel it everywhere I go. It's been great. I know Member Ketto said about the prom. I just want to mention what a wonderful event in graduation. I'm looking forward to that if it's not going to be 100 degrees. And also the all-night party. They're having that again. I actually signed up to help do check-in that night after graduation. I just like to see all the students coming in all excited from graduation. It's just a very fun event, and I'm glad we're having that again. I guess I just wanted to, the end of school year is coming up, and I know it's been exhausting for parents and staff and everybody, and I'm just hoping that everyone can just have a nice summer and just kind of rejuvenate for next fall, and hopefully we can be all in and everybody kind of goes back to some kind of normalcy in the fall. So that concludes our report.
Thank you, Member Corcoran, and I'm glad you threw the plug in for the all-night party. I will see you there. It's always a lot of fun to see those seniors, and they always recognize us as the people who gave them their diploma. So even though they earned their diploma, we didn't do, we did the least of the work for them. But that being said, does anybody have anything else? Hearing nothing, we will move on to reports, and we will start off with Dr. Massey and the staff retirement recognition.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll have Joy present the PowerPoint of our different retirees, but I have to say that it is a true honor to have the opportunity to share these retirees with you tonight, and frankly with the community. Each of these retirees have given so much to the district and have made such a profound impact on the lives of kids, their families, and the community. I'll start with our first retiree. We'll go through alphabetically, starting with Mary Anderson. Since the fall of 1996 as a paraprofessional, working with the most vulnerable students, Mary Anderson graced the special education department at the high school with her cheerful presence. Mary always had a smile on her face. Mary was an outstanding part of the Forest Lake Area High School. If someone needed help with anything, she was there to change what she was doing. The students were her passion. Mary was one of those coworkers who would see you having a bad day and would just make it better. Congratulations, Mary, on your retirement. There we go. Excellent. Next up is Gail Arcand. Joy, are you able to slide the pictures forward?
Yes, I'm having a little trouble getting them to the next slide, but I'll figure it out quickly.
All right. Gail Arcand. Gail drove students for our school district for 7 years. He safely transported students for 4 years in regular education, 2 years in special education, and was a substitute driver for 1 year. Gail had an outstanding safety record. As a part owner of Anoka Ridge Golf Course, Gail spends time working and playing around the course. Gail said he really enjoyed his time as a bus driver for the school district. We appreciate your professional service for the school district, and we wish you the very best in your retirement. Kathy Beach is our next retiree. Kathy graduated from Winona State University in the spring of 1980 with an elementary education degree and special education with learning disability focus degree, and began her teaching career that fall. After teaching positions in Leroy Ostrander School District and St. Paul Public Schools, she was hired for a special education teaching position at Scandia Elementary. She spent the next 25 years teaching at Scandia and the past 4 years serving on the special education evaluation team. We appreciate your incredible service to the students in the Forest Lake Area School District, and we wish you the very best in retirement. Next is Carlene Bettner. Carlene is a phenomenal educator, and personally, Carlene, thank you for your education of my own kids. Carlene has done an outstanding job of supporting students and fellow teachers for more than 28 years. Starting out as a student teacher at Forest Lake High School, Carlene's talents were quickly noticed and was offered a position as a summer school teacher that summer and as an English teacher at Central Junior High School the following fall. In addition to fostering a love for literature over the years, Carlene has been a peer coach, secondary induction member, and a district department chair. Among her fondest memories are coaching an Odyssey of the Mind team that went to nationals. The end of year traditions that she and colleagues enjoyed, and the family of educators she got to work with each day. Thank you, Carlene, for your amazing service to our students, and we wish you the very best in your retirement. Kathy Brett. Kathy served as a paraprofessional in the school district for 23 years. She is joining her husband, Jim, in retirement. Kathy loved working with students and watching them grow. Kathy was our special ed expert on math and grammar and always kind and flexible when we would change her schedule a million times. Kathy Brett will be missed by staff and students at Wyoming Elementary. Thank you, Kathy, for your dedicated service, and we wish you the best in your retirement. Leanne Carpenter. Leanne was a school bus aide for the school district for 13 years. She worked with great devotion for the safety and well-being of all the special education students on her bus. Most of the time was spent as an aide on our elementary, middle school, and high school and senior high school bus routes. Leanne and her husband own a vacation home in Florida where they intend to spend a great deal of time enjoying the sun and golfing and joining a golf league. Thank you for all your years of service and dedication to the special needs of students in our district. We wish you the very best in retirement. Carolyn Carlatati. Carolyn came to Forest Lake Area Schools in 2006 as our first family support advocate, and over the years, she has grown the position to the vital and essential role we know it to be today. Carolyn's compassion for students and families, as well as her ability to listen deeply and seek out solutions, quickly solidified her role as a trusted advocate, and through her persistence and problem solving, she found ways to provide outreach and build connections for so many of our families. Carolyn's persuasiveness helped us build an invaluable partnership with various community groups, including Forest Lake Area Partnership for Families, Lake Center for Youth and Families, and the Hazelton Foundation, just to name a few. Carolyn also spearheaded our involvement in what is now known as Equity Alliance Minnesota, putting us on the path to our equity work that we continue today. As part of her work around equity, Carolyn helped build the Festivals of Culture into a much anticipated annual event and she initiated the hiring of many of our cultural liaisons. Carolyn's efforts in establishing the district equity leaders, as well as many of our affinity groups that support our students of color, will endure long after she moves on to enjoy her retirement. Congratulations and best wishes, Carolyn. We are indebted to your incredible service to our district. Patricia Cole. Patty Cole has been with the school district of Forest Lake Area Schools as a special education paraprofessional for 31 years, all 31 years at Columbus Elementary. Patty has always been a leader in her craft. She truly cared for each student and got the best out of them daily. Her patience was extraordinary, and she always found the good in each child. She was a dedicated, wonderful employee and will be missed by all. Congratulations, Patty, on your retirement. Rita Dufresne. Rita Dufresne began working in the Forest Lake Nutrition Services Department as a substitute cook helper, traveling to different kitchens throughout the district, many times on short notice. Her first permanent position was as a short-hour cook helper at the Central Learning Center. She gradually increased her responsibilities and duties by taking positions at the Forest Lake High School and Southwest Junior High as a long-hour cook helper. Most recently, Rita has served as the cook manager at Lakes International Language Academy, a position she held for the last 7 years. After 14 years of providing nutritious meals to our school-aged children, we wish her success in her future endeavors as she continues to work in nutrition services with a focus on the senior population. Thank you, Rita. Megan Espiak. Megan graduated from Moorhead State University and pursued her master's in secondary languages and cultures education degree and earned that degree from the University of Minnesota. June of 2021 will now welcome Megan to the much-deserved extra time with her family, dear friends, and different adventures. Megan has truly been a gifted and talented teacher and trusted colleague, always offering guidance and support for all those who have had the opportunity to work alongside her. She has always demonstrated a compassionate, fair, and caring attitude with her students and has always helped her students to the highest standards. All of her students will reiterate this. Aside from doing a masterful job at educating students far beyond Spanish vocabulary, grammatical concepts, and literature, she has become an expert on language acquisition, thus enhancing our immersion programs. In addition to her contributions in the classroom, Megan will be remembered by many of her students for the international experiences she provided her students through trips to Spain and Costa Rica. Throughout Megan's 33-year career in Forest Lake, her classroom has been a powerful place each day. Megan, you are an esteemed educator, mentor, and educator, and we will all miss your wisdom, professionalism, and support. Congratulations. Diane Georgie. Diane is retiring after an illustrious 37-year career in Forest Lake area schools. She has taught 4th grade and 6th grade at Lino Lakes Elementary School, where she also served as a technology and gifted support specialist for 14 years. In this role, she was instrumental in establishing the STEM program as a newly formed STEM school. She has also served as a literacy intervention specialist and curriculum coordinator prior to serving as the district director of teaching and learning. Diane is credited with rebuilding the teaching and learning department with the successful 2015 operating referendum that provided much needed resources for curriculum, professional development, instructional coaches, literacy and math coaches, and a revitalized instructional review process. Diane's legacy will carry on for years to come as she transitions to retirement. And personally, Diane has made me a much better superintendent, and she has been a trusted and valuable colleague, far beyond what words can describe. Diane, thank you for your incredible service to our district and congratulations. Kathy Hoff. Kathy was promoted to food service supervisor on January 2nd, 2014. On her last day with the school district, October 2nd, 2020, she said, "I have enjoyed every position I held in the district during the last 3 decades." Kathy started out as a food service substitute in 1989 and became a 3-hour cook helper in 1990. In 1995, she became a long-hour cook helper and worked at the high school and ALC. In September of 1998, Kathy was promoted to cook manager at the high school and then became the district-wide food service specialist a few years later. Kathy's leadership as our food service supervisor will be greatly missed. We are all better to have had the opportunity to work with her, and we wish her the best in her retirement. Patty Hoff. Patty started in 1997 as a Title I para and noon support staff person at Lino Lakes Elementary. She spent most of her career assisting students with special needs after the Title program moved to another building. Teachers and students truly appreciated the work Patty did serving the school and students. Patty, thank you for your service to our students, and we wish you the best in your retirement. Murray Humble. For 12 years, Murray transported students for our school district. He had a great safety record and brought professionalism and dedication to his job. Students will remember you as an important part of their school experience. Thank you for your years of service, and we wish you the best in your retirement. Paul Iwasco. Paul began his teaching career in Iowa in 1989 as a special education teacher. After moving to Minnesota in 1993 and teaching in several metro area school districts, Paul eventually joined the Forest Lake Area Schools team, first as a special education teacher, then as a social studies teacher at Southwest Junior High School. During Paul's tenure in Forest Lake, he has taught multiple social studies courses at all grade levels in grades 7 through 12, and has served in a number of leadership roles. Paul has always put students first, and has built a legacy of acting on the behalf of every student and the belief that all students can succeed with the right level of support. Paul currently serves as a QComp peer coach, where he has leveraged his wealth of experience in supporting our secondary educators district-wide. Congratulations on your well-deserved retirement, Paul. Kim Kohlberg. Kim began her career with the district in 1984 as a building secretary at Central Junior High School. She later transitioned to the district office, providing support for teachers and many others throughout the district. She consistently managed complex and challenging situations with a smile and patience for all she encountered. No matter the situation, she maintained her poise and grace, always wanting to make others' lives better and easier. Kim enjoys traveling to Nashville for music, cruises, and Deadwood, to name just a few locations. She enjoys plays and musicals, whether in Boston, New York, or even Hinckley. She enjoys seeing new places and is close with several of her high school girlfriends with whom she often travels. After her retirement, she and her husband Tom plan to relocate to South Dakota, but we expect she will be on the go to many places. Kim, enjoy yourself and enjoy your well-deserved retirement. Laura Lauscher. Laura started in the Forest Lake School District in 2015 as a SAC manager at Scandia Elementary, and continued to call Scandia home until her retirement in the summer of 2020. Laura brought excitement, adventure, and a huge heart to our program. The students and staff loved her. Laura has many fond memories of her students and the staff at Scandia, and they will always hold a special place in her heart. Laura and her husband, Mike, who also worked in Forest Lake area schools, are enjoying their retirement. We wish you, Laura, the best as you proceed into retirement. Lisa Manzel. Lisa started her Forest Lake Schools teaching career in 1983 at Scandia Elementary as a kindergarten teacher. Lisa taught at Scandia through June of 1989 and then at Wyoming Elementary, when she moved to a half-time kindergarten teaching position in order to spend time with her young family. In 2010, Lisa returned to teaching full-time and moved to Forest View Elementary. After teaching for 38 years and teaching our youngest learners, Lisa will be retiring. Lisa's teaching career now ends after teaching during a pandemic. While challenging, she is proud to say that she has learned many new things about technology and recently shared that she has come a long way since the times of hand-cranked mimeograph machines, typewriters with whiteout tape, record players, film strips, overhead projectors, and the list goes on. Lisa, you are a gifted educator, and we thank you for your incredible service to our school district, and congratulations on your retirement. Vicki Manzel. Whether it was handing out scholarships, issuing a semester parking pass, or getting a student a pass to class, Vicki Manzel has had a conversation with just about everyone that walked the halls of Forest Lake High School from August 2003 until COVID hit and she retired at the end of 2020, giving her a 17-year career in Forest Lake area schools. Vicki and her husband Jim now live in Wisconsin and are enjoying their much-deserved retirement. Vicki, thank you for your incredible service to our high school students and their families. Jeannie Nelson. Jeannie has worked in the district for 21 years as a bus driver. She transported our students with a mind for safety, professionalism, and dedication. We thank Jeannie for her dedicated years of service to the school district, and we wish her a wonderful retirement. So many of our students will long remember you as a vital part of their Forest Lake school experience. Congratulations on your retirement. Kay Payne. Long before Kay began working in the school district in 2005, she was a familiar face at Scandia Elementary. Her twins, Abby and Charlie, attended Scandia Elementary School. Kay was an active part of a parent volunteer as well. Kay began her career as a substitute clerk in the media center, then subbed in food service at Lino Lakes. She spent 1 year as a cook at Lino Lakes and then came to Scandia in 2010, where she resides today prior to her retirement at the end of the year. As a cook at Scandia, Kay became known as our condiment queen, as she is known, and our costume coordinator. Thank you, Kay, for all you have done for Scandia Elementary as a parent, volunteer, and employee, and enjoy your much-deserved retirement. Karen Peters. Karen was a bus driver for the school district for 2 years. She drove a regular education bus for Linwood Elementary, the middle school, and the senior high school. Kay drove a bus for many years elsewhere, but she considers Forest Lake the best place she ever worked. She misses her coworkers and the staff very much, and we appreciate your years of service for the school district, and we wish you the best in your retirement. Carl Peters. For over 8 years, Carl drove a school bus for our district. Carl drove for Linwood, the middle school, and the high school. For 7 of those years, he drove the same bus route and said he really enjoyed watching the students grow up. He also said he enjoyed driving a school bus much more than he thought he would. Carl and his sister Karen are both graduates of Forest Lake. We appreciate all the safe, professional, and dedicated service you provided to our students, and we wish you the best in your retirement. Eileen Peterson. Eileen was the head cook at Linwood Elementary for 12 years. Linwood students knew Eileen cared about them because of her dedication. She always looked out for Linwood students and knew many of them by name. Eileen was always willing to wrap up an extra sandwich when a student forgot to bring their field trip lunch. She loved to play music and especially liked blasting her favorite song, Center Field by John Fogerty. All the work that Eileen did, she will always be remembered for her smile and will certainly be dearly missed at Linwood. Eileen, congratulations on your retirement. Jan Reilly. Jan started her career in Forest Lake Area Schools in 1996. Jan's first position was as a Title I aide at Forest View Elementary. In the early 2000s, she started her work in the area of community education. She held a position in clerical, holding several different positions as well during her time in the department. In 2010, Jan made the move to the district office as the accounts payable office assistant. 6 years later, she moved to the account payable position, the position she was in when she retired in January of 2021. She had a great knowledge in the history of the district and was always willing to help when contacted by district staff. Thank you, Jan, for all your years of service and dedication to Forest Lake Area Schools. We wish you the best in your retirement. Barb Rowley. Barb has worked in Forest Lake Area Schools since 1995 as a teaching assistant in the early childhood education programs. Over the years, she worked with students of all ages in multiple buildings. She has built outstanding relationships with children, their families, and everyone with whom she worked. Barb's wisdom and her experience have been an asset to every classroom she has been a part of. She truly cares about students and their families and has made a huge impact on the early childhood education program. Barb will be missed for her sharp wit and larger-than-life personality. Barb, thank you for your years of service and congratulations on your retirement. Jan Stauffer. For almost 3 decades, Jan has helped students learn to appreciate art and develop their art skills. After starting her career in the business world by working at 3M, Jan decided to make a change and go into art education. She received her start at Forest Lake Area High School and a year later accepted a position at Central Middle School and hasn't looked back. Some of her favorite memories include starting an art appreciation club in which she brought students to local theaters all over the area, as well as serving as the yearbook advisor in the days when all the work was done on paper and using a typesetter. For her, these experiences were a blast. Jan, thank you for your gift of art and of teaching. We wish you the best in your retirement. Kathy Stuber. For 28 years, Kathy graced the early childhood program as a teaching assistant, working with students of all ages from newborns to 5 years old. Kathy built meaningful relationships with everyone she came in contact with, taking the time to get to know each staff member she worked with and each student in her class, as well as their families. Besides her being incredibly kind, Kathy was very loyal to our programs and staff. Her retirement is well-deserved, and she is greatly missed. Congratulations, Kathy, and best wishes in your retirement. Mary Vangen. Mary Vangen began her teaching career in 1989 at Columbus Elementary School in first grade and is now considered a legend and pillar to the Columbus community. After a total of 31 years of working with wonderful first grade children, the highlight of her career, yes, always grade 1, was the grade she taught. Mary was very active in making Columbus the best it could be. Her daily diligence in making students believe in themselves as confident and capable learners will never be replaced. Simply put, Principal Neil Fox would say, she loved to come to work every day. Mary will be greatly missed by students, staff, and the Columbus community. And my own kids will count her as one of their best teachers. Congratulations on your retirement, Mary. You will be greatly missed. Kim Webb. Kim began her teaching career in 1978 in Victor, Iowa. For the past 29 years, she dedicated her craft to Columbus Elementary. Kim is a very special elementary school counselor who will be missed for her love and enthusiasm for making students simply successful. Every child. Kim is a courageous educator that wore many hats, all with making positive contributions to the school, a continual vibrant place for students to learn and grow. Her gift was valuing what the most prized possessions parents sent to us at Columbus every day, their children. She was able to personally connect with each child and every student. Thank you for all you have done for the staff, the parents, the kids, the community of Columbus, and the Forest Lake School District. Congratulations, Kim, on your retirement. You will be greatly missed. Jeff Widman. Jeff started with the school district in 1987. Jeff wore many hats during his time with the district buildings and grounds department and was a valuable asset in all of his roles. Jeff's last role was with food service, going from the warehouse delivery person to the equipment repair mechanic. Jeff, thank you and good luck in all your future endeavors, and thank you for your 34 years of dedicated service. Mary Whiteman. As a Forest Lake Area High School alum, Mary Whiteman brought her talents back to share with her alma mater in 1985. She started as a long-term sub, managing the phone system in the days before voicemail and digital technologies. But her talent with technology would become the thread weaving through her years to come. In 1996, she began work as a secretary for Assistant Principal Russ Cooper while learning the intricacies of attendance reporting. District downsizing would move her into the Media Center in 1989, where she worked supporting student needs in books, but also in technology and the budding internet. In 1999, she was tapped for her growing technology skills to become a technology support specialist, a job she would help define. For 2 decades, Mary would be the one to support students and staff in their varied technology challenges, a position she held with competence and grace. We will miss her willingness to rise to every challenge, including, frankly, my own technology challenges when I was principal at the high school. We thank her for her 35 years of generous service. Best wishes, Mary, in your retirement. Janine Ross. Janine drove a school bus for our school district. Forget this, 43 years. Most of Janine's bus driving was for Lionel Lakes Elementary, the middle school, and the senior high school. However, she also drove extra trips, shuttles, substituted on bus routes whenever available. She said having this job allowed her to spend time raising her children and was able to transport them on her bus. She said she really enjoyed being a bus driver. She has been an exceptional leader of students she transported and role model. And having driven here for so long, she has developed many relationships throughout the community. She has been an invaluable employee with the school district, and her presence and expertise will be greatly missed, including driving the bus for many years during the 4th of July parade. We thank you for your years of professional service, and we wish you all the best in your retirement. Cheryl Zrodka. Cheryl transported students for the school district for 5 years. She was dedicated to the safety of the students she transported, and it showed in her outstanding safety record. We appreciate all of your years of service, and we wish you the best in your retirement. I would personally like to thank all of the 2021 retirees. With your retirement, you leave a space that is hard to fill. Your expertise, passion, and dedication is part of what makes this a special district where students, families, and staff are cherished. Congratulations to all of you on your retirement.
All right, well, I'm wondering if anybody has any comments, questions. Otherwise, I would entertain a short recess. I know there's a couple of members who would like to get out of their chair. And so if we have no comments, we would recess for 5 minutes, 8:26, we'd be back. Does that work? All right. I see it's 8:26. Has everyone returned? Member Tyson, have you returned? Member Olson? I see you have your hand up.
Yep. I just want to say, Steve, that was a fabulous presentation, and I couldn't resist, but we had 34 retirees that gave us 786 years combined. So kudos and thank you, everybody.
Member Olson, I was hoping you were adding them up because I lost track. So thank you.
Say those number of years again.
786.
Isn't that incredible? And you don't replace a retiree. It takes time for people to fill in that space with the experience and knowledge and craft and skill. And that's the case with every one of these.
Look, is there anyone left? It's a lot of people.
Well, we have over 1,000 paychecks, so
Okay.
it
Member
stands.
Tyson? All right. Member Tyson, I see you put your hand up.
I just wanted to add on to what Member Olson said that, you know, those hours are incredible. And when you look at some of the kindergarten teacher, ECFE, bus drivers, I mean, overall, just that level of giving is incredible when you're in those positions. So we're just blessed with that longevity in our district. So I wish everyone a wonderful retirement.
Thank you, Member Tyson. Do we have any other comments? Hearing nothing, we will move on. Did anybody have any workshops or conferences to report on? I didn't think so. We'll move right into reports. 916, Member Ketto.
We had a Northeast Metro 916 board meeting last night. It was the last meeting for Superintendent Connie Hayes, who will be leaving the district and retiring. On behalf of myself and on behalf of the district, I did make a donation to a gift for Connie. So they're giving Connie a gift, going away gift, which was not given last night, but will be given. And the final board report was given. She gave a final board report, which was a reflection from the retiring superintendent. She included 916's history on equity work and talked about the partnership with CEL, which is the Center for Educational Leadership. And those were the highlights of that meeting. So that ends my report.
Thank you, Member Ketto. We'll move on to buildings and grounds. Member Corcoran.
Hi. Yeah, our meetings are they're so amazing to learn about all the great things going on in our district. Because, of course, it's not, buildings and grounds is a little bit over my head, but I sure have great people that are working on stuff. So I learn a lot. We talked about the long-term facilities planning for fiscal year 22-23. Kind of the plan for how our alternative financing money will be used. Then we also talked about some construction projects that are going on in the district. There's always things going on. We have the CLC, project that we're working on. And we also talk a lot about the athletic field, the stadium, how exciting we are. Of course, it's running great. The weather was really, the spring was great, so they got ahead of it. They're running on schedule, maybe leaving a little early, which we know you can't count on, but it's sure nice to hear. Mike Kennan said he's out there every day just kind of checking the progress. He's very excited, and everybody's just, can hardly wait for this to get done. And we talked about the Education Center re-roofing project. And then Bill Schwartz always does an amazing job on kind of talking about all the different projects. He is just on top of it all, just all the updates and all the things they're working on in the Buildings and Ground Department. So it's just fascinating to hear all the different things going on. So that concludes my report.
Thank you, Member Corcoran. We'll move to the City of Forest Lake with Member Tyson.
Yes, there's a lot of positivity and energy going on in Forest Lake. The first Arts in the Park is back. The first one is on June 15th, and thanks to all those vendors for returning. That's always a lot of fun. The Forest Lake Safety Camp is held again, and that as well is on the 15th of June and has space for 45 kids. I think that safety camp has been going on for quite some time. My daughters did it when they were 9 and 10. They're also hiring part-time park rangers. And I just want to mention, too, that the Washington County Ice Cream Social is back on the docket. They do a community ice cream social at the historic courthouse, and that is July 15th. And and I'll talk about something with the Forest Lake area schools in my communications update. So that concludes my report.
Well, you are next on the docket for communications.
I am. So communications was kind of an exciting meeting. We learned that the Adult Basic Ed, ABE, has access to some one-time funding that'll help promote and enhance our adult basic education, which we are very proud of. It's a testing site, so that's good to hear. We heard that there'll be annual pool maintenance the end of May, and so the pool will be closed for its annual maintenance there. But exciting news, there's also, as well as Arts in the Park, there's activities in the park. And Forest Lake Community Ed is a fiscal agent working with the city to provide these activities. There's yoga, Zumba, kids create studios, all kinds of things. And the cost is only $5 with the city offsetting the price, and pickleball lessons. So that is exciting, and it's open to all residents in our school district, not just Forest Lake area, Forest Lake City. So that concludes my report.
Thank you, Member Tyson. We'll move to community education with Member Ketto.
I want to thank Director McKinnon for his presentation earlier tonight on behalf of Community Ed. During our meeting, the primary purpose of the meeting was to go through the mini grant evaluation and awards that we do every year in Community Ed. There were 5 applicants for awards. There were 4 awards that were actually made, or 4 grants that were given, for a total of $2,050 total. And the last part of it is there is no meeting until September 20th. So there will not be reports for the next couple of months. And that ends my report.
Thank you, Member Ketto. We will move to Curriculum, Instruction, and Equity Committee. Member Luthner.
Thank you. We had a speaker come in for culturally responsive teacher presentation. She was just a person that you just want to be friends with. She was so gifted with the presentation and new stuff, some going over the same things again, but great that we just keep going back over this information so we can all grow better together. And looking at the strategic plan for leadership. And we spent a little time saying goodbye to Carolyn and Diane. So that was their committee. And there were 16 people in attendance at this committee meeting. And it is the last until till we come back in the fall. So it was a good last meeting.
Thank you, Member Luthner. We will move to equity in our schools with Member Rayfield.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't have a lot to report. I just like to kind of put out a reminder that our strategic plan really calls on us as a district to do everything we can to make sure that every student gets an equitable education, a chance at a good education, and that that we keep our eyes on that all the time. And working with groups like Equity Alliance and the YMCA and other groups that are on the same mission that we are to make sure that that happens. That's something really positive for this district. And so it's good work. And I just wanted to kind of put out that reminder for my report.
Thank you, Member Rayfield. We will move to finance with Member Corcoran.
Okay. We talked about the fiscal year 21 budget status. We're on target. The student losses are at 49, which is a good number compared to 100 student loss projection. Our fiscal year 22 budget status is on the agenda for tonight. We had an amazing balance point strategy presentation. It kind of talked about the healthcare that we offer for our employees. And what it does is it's just a questionnaire. They actually physically make phone calls to ask members how they feel about their healthcare. And it's a really good, I believe they had like 100 people that they interviewed. And it's a really long, they're on there for a while. So over an hour and sometimes even longer than that. And that our employees are willing to do that. And it just helps them kind of get a feel for how they feel about our healthcare plans. And it gives us as a district to realize what a great opportunity that our employees have, what a great healthcare options that we have in our district. And another thing we talked about is the Spousal Advantage Health Plan that we're offering. And actually, I believe Director Martini rolled it out. I actually saw an email a couple days ago that's something that we're offering to kind of have options for spouses within our employee groups. And I believe that is all we talked about. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Member Corcoran. We will move to the Policy Committee with Member Luthner.
Thank you. So the Policy Committee, there was 11 people in attendance. Again, this is the last one for this school year. We'll come back in September. There were two policies that are both on the docket for later today. And the one on vaccines, we did have some brief conversation that there is not a list of required, we're not talking about requiring a COVID vaccine. We actually talked about not talking about it. So it's the whole policy was basically if a family either forgets or didn't turn in their paperwork, this is the letter that gets sent to them. So it coincidentally came up in the middle of a vaccine discussion in the world, but in reality, it was a very routine. It's been the same forever. It's a records for school district. And it was just sprucing up the language slightly to reference a more appropriate, like something that MDH changed. And then the other one is about the Minnesota High School League. And really the only thing notable about it is I didn't realize the Minnesota High School League was just that old. So it was a pretty easy last policy meeting. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Member Luthner, and thank you for that clarification on the vaccine policy that it's just being updated. With that, we'll move to Staff Welfare Committee with Member Olson.
Yes, we started a discussion about paid time off concept in that we would replace personal and sick leave with PTO. We talked about pros and cons of that. We also talked about our board workshop and what we think that could look like, what some ideas of what topics we should have. And I know we have our first workshop scheduled for July 15th. We might do one in mid-August as well. We talked a little bit about having a student as a school board member, and I know that's on the agenda tonight, so I won't go into too much great detail there. And we got an enrollment update, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Member Olson. And with that, we'll move to the Superintendent Report. Dr. Massey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To begin my report, I would like to take a moment and thank the people who reached out to the school board and me regarding the decision to hold a moment of silence last week. When the governor made the proclamation late Monday night for a moment of silence the following day, and when this was further reinforced by the Commissioner of Education early Tuesday morning, we decided that we would provide this time for students after adjusting the length and the timing for the moment of silence. In no way was this decision intended to be political or to make a political statement. However, we understand the concern expressed by many that the timeline did not allow the opportunity for parents to talk with their student at home about the nature of the moment of silence or choose whether their student would participate. After considerable discussion, we believe that it would have been more appropriate to allow families to choose whether or not to participate in a moment of silence together at home and after the school day. The school district remains committed to providing an equitable, safe, and thriving learning environment for all students. As has been discussed a number of times tonight, as we get to the end of the school year, we get into that season of many celebrations, not the least of which is graduation. Graduation, as we now know and has been well publicized on calendars, is Friday, June 11th at 7 p.m. And just to illustrate the distance we have covered and how much we have gone through and where we're at today, graduation will be indoors with unlimited capacity based on what the gym can hold. Masks will be optional, and we will provide close to a real experience for our students, all within the Minnesota Department of Health and CDC guidelines. Summer school starts shortly thereafter, with summer school starting June 21st and extending to June 30th. With recent guidance for summer school will be a mask optional environment for students and staff. We also have been given guidance around contact tracing and quarantining in summer school. Currently, we're following all the school year guidance until the end of the school year, but with the start of summer, a positive case, if we were to have one in the classroom, does not automatically result in quarantining students. We'll notify families of a positive case on a bus or in a classroom, and families then can make the choice whether or not they would choose to quarantine their student. But there won't be a mandatory quarantine, again, based on guidance provided by the Minnesota Department of Health and CDC. As Member Tyson shared just a moment ago, the Everyone Belongs project is moving forward with the next event, if you will, coming out of the Everyone Belongs project. It will be titled Our Community Yesterday, Today, and Tomorrow. We'll have State Demographer Susan Bauer on hand to share current trends of the demographics that make up our school district and our local communities. We believe that will have great value to not only schools, but businesses, social service agencies, other folks in the community that are interacting with and serving our public that is growing younger and more diverse as we move forward. So a great opportunity for the community to come together and better understand who we are today and who we will be tomorrow. And I just want to echo what Member Rayfield was sharing earlier. The end of the year, as this is our last school board meeting of the school year, and I think we'd all be remiss if we didn't recognize the incredible lift that our system pulled off this school year. That includes every single staff member, and frankly, their parents, our students and their parents. Not lost on this is the burden this placed on our students and their families as they provided childcare and student academic support and comfort and mental health supports. It has been a challenging year in so many ways. And what we asked our staff to do across the board, from last March 16th to today, frankly, has been unprecedented. And our staff just deserve a ton of credit for their resilience, their persistence, their talent, their skill, their dedication, their attitude of we aren't here to resist, we're here to say yes we can and yes we will. Just impressive and remarkable. So with that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Massey. Seeing no hands up, we will move on to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Ketto with a
Second.
second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Member Clerk, would you please take a roll call?
Member Olson.
Aye.
Member Olson votes aye. Member Rayfield.
Aye.
Member Rayfield votes aye. Member Tyson.
Aye.
Member Tyson votes aye. Member Peterson.
Aye.
Member Peterson votes aye. Member Luthner votes aye. Member Corcoran.
Aye.
Member Corcoran votes aye. Member Ketto.
Aye.
Member Ketto votes aye.
All right, we will move on to action items. 8.1, Forest Lake staff retirement notices. Do we have a motion to approve 8.1?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Do we have any discussion? Hearing none. Member Clerk, would you please take a roll call?
Okay, Member Rayfield.
Okay, I didn't realize I'd have to go first. Aye.
Member Rayfield votes aye. Member Tyson.
Aye.
Member Tyson votes aye. Member Peterson.
Aye.
Member Peterson votes aye. Member Luthner votes aye. Member Corcoran.
Aye.
Member Corcoran votes aye. Member Ketto.
Aye.
Member Ketto votes aye. Member Olson.
Aye.
Member Olson votes aye.
All right, we will move on to 8.2, donations. Do I have a motion to accept the donations?
So moved.
Second.
All right, and Member Ketto, would you kindly read the donations?
I will do that. This month, we would like to, as the district, we would like to thank the individuals and organizations who contributed gifts to the district in the form of $16,277.66. We had 8 individuals and organizations contribute, and the donations ranged from 150 all the way up to 7,483.52. We'd like to thank the Simpson family, the Van Wagner family, Philip and Heather Martins, Trudy Lee, the Dugout Club, the Forest Lake Softball Boosters, the Forest Lake Lacrosse Boosters, and the Forest Lake Lacrosse Boosters for the donations on behalf of the district.
Thank you, Member Ketto. Do we have any discussion on 8.2? Seeing none, Member Clerk, would you please take a roll call?
Member Tyson.
Aye.
Member Tyson votes aye. Member Peterson.
Aye.
Member Peterson votes aye. Member Luthner votes aye. Member Corcoran.
Aye.
Member Corcoran votes aye. Member Ketto.
Aye.
Member Ketto votes aye. Member Olson.
Aye.
Member Olson votes aye. Member Rayfield.
Aye.
Member Rayfield votes aye.
Member Tyson, I did not see your hand go up timely. Did you have something you wanted to say?
You are so kind, Member Chair. I just wanted to add that we are always so humbled and appreciative with our donations. And thank you, Member Ketto, for reading those.
Thank you, Member Tyson. We will move on to 8.3, approve of the fiscal year 21-22 budget. Director Martini.
Thank you and good evening. I'm going to try and share my screen. This is our second reading for the budget, so it's the second time the full board has seen the budget. We shared it with you a month ago, and we only had one minor adjustment with the Community Education Fund. I've got some slides that will highlight not only all funds, but then also a few general fund slides. So first off, on the revenue side for the general fund, we have not actually changed our prediction relative to the legislature and the federal government for operating funds. This totals $79,125,000, and it is not including any of the ESSER 3 funding. Now, GEAR and ESSER funding are both one-time dollars, so those are really not for ongoing operations. We shared with Finance Committee in the middle of April that we anticipated expenditures to come in level as well at $79,125,000. It's a slight decrease over the prior year because we expended quite a bit of CRF as well as ESSER and GEAR funds in the year that we're just finishing. So we have not made adjustments to that. So Finance Committee members have seen this expenditure prediction for several months as well. Here is all funds. Food service and community education are also operating funds, and both of them are projecting increases to their fund balances, although the food service increase is not very substantial, and the community education fund is essentially balanced. With that, I'm asking for your approval this evening. We don't have the ability to expend funds unless the budget is approved. Of course, we've got 2 more meetings until June 30th. If there are questions and further revisions the board would suggest, but we're just going to wait and hold our breath and hope the legislature doesn't end up with one of those shutdowns at the end of June. So questions or comments can be answered at this point.
Member Raphael, I see you have your hand up.
Thank you, Member Chair. Director Martini, what increase percentages are you targeting for this budget?
2% increase in the general formula allowance, and our prediction for the legislative process is that would occur, although they will come short on fully funding special education. We do anticipate the second year of the biennium, which would be the 22-23 school year, that we'd see another 2%, but that they're going to be struggling to tie all of those other programs to a 2% increase. So we're pretty much in line with where we think the conference committees were just before they had to wait for a special session to evolve.
Right. Okay, thank you. Sounds great.
Thank you, Member Raphael. Member Tyson, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Member Chair. Director Martini, it's always a catch-22 this time of year doing a budget, and I have to thank you, and I really admire you for all the work you do with the Finance Committee and how you figure out this budget. It's complex. But I do have a question. Have we received the ESSER 3 funds yet, or is that still coming?
So we're aware that the magnitude is just under $2 million, but we do not have guidance yet.
All right.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Tyson. Do we have any other questions for Director Martini? Member Corcoran?
I just had a question about the ESSER funds. Dr. Martini, what is the time frame that those have to be used? Is that a 2-year turn on those, or is that a 1 year?
Yes, generally a 2-year turn. So for ESSER 3 funds, that's certainly going to be applicable to FY23 or possibly even longer than that.
Okay. Thank you so much. And I do appreciate all the work that your staff and you go to be able to pull this together, because it is a moving target. As we all know, the unpredictability of legislators to ever agree to approve anything. So, but we have many months to look at this and ask questions. And, Director Martini is so good about explaining. And I just really appreciate all your hard work and your team does to make it run so smoothly. So I do appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
I just appreciate the comments about the team, because this is not an effort, even though I'm the person that's speaking to you this evening. It's a full team effort, and it is really just setting a roadmap with the historical experience we have, because we will come to you with budget adjustments in the fall and also in the spring like we've done in the past. But I'm proud of the work that the people that work with me accomplish.
Thank you, Director Martini, and I couldn't agree more with your sentiments. I've seen in the news on occasion some school districts who've not had the fortunate opportunity to have such a great financial team and the results of that, and I am glad that we have had such a great team and a great experience for me in the time I've been on the board. Do we have any further questions for Director Martini? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to approve 8.3.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion on the motion. Member Corcoran, I do see your hand still up. Is that still up from before? All right, sounds good. With that, Member Clerk, would you please take a roll call?
Okay, Member Peterson.
Aye.
Member Peterson votes aye. Member Luthner votes aye. Member Corcoran.
Aye.
Member Corcoran votes aye. Member Ketto.
Aye.
Member Ketto votes aye. Member Olson.
Aye.
Member Olson votes aye. Member Rayfield.
Aye.
Member Rayfield votes aye. Member Tyson.
Aye.
Member Tyson votes aye.
That the motion passes, we will move to new business. This is a first reading student participation in school board business. Dr. Massey?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will present this to you and to the board for discussion tonight. I know a number of you have attended MSBA workshop sessions, professional development sessions around the idea of and around the conversation of ways in which we can include student voice and participation in school board function and school board activity. MSBA has provided some framework and guidance for student school board members and how they would participate in school board activities as non-voting members. They've provided some framework and guidance for other ways that students can be involved in school board work. In our case, as a district, we have school board committees that meet in the middle of the month. We currently have 2 students serving on the policy committee. We do not currently have students serving on our other committees, including policy we do, but buildings and grounds, communications, curriculum instruction and equity, communications and finance. So there would be an opportunity potentially there to bring students into that work. Options would also be potentially to include student reports at board meetings from our student leadership groups, student council, NHS, FFA, both peer leaders and student councils at the middle school. There are student councils and leadership groups at the elementary. Another way to bring student perspective and voice to the board work. So, Member Chair, I present this as background and would turn it to you for discussion.
All right, well, the floor is open for discussion. Member Ketto.
I was one of the people that attended an MSBA workshop on student involvement, and being one of the newer members of the school board, I thought it was a tremendous idea for 2 reasons. One, it would give students a voice basically on the board, on the council, and secondly, even more importantly for me, what I really liked about it is the fact that the students had an opportunity to maybe gain a scholarship from it through the MSBA. So my input, and I understand from some discussions we've had about this that, that may be the best role, as Superintendent Massey said, it may be the best role for them to be on a committee or whatever. I just want, personally for me, I'd like to see the students have a voice of some kind on the board, and I'd like to see that they have an opportunity to possibly gain a scholarship, because I think that's a wonderful thing, and may lead to future leadership for a student or 2. So that's where I stand.
Thank you, Member Ketto. I believe Member Corcoran was next.
Yeah, I mean, in the discussion about this, I do agree, because I was also at some of those MSBA conferences about this, and at first glance, it seems like it's a really great idea, but there's a lot of factors in it too that you have to look at. But I think if we could get them, even in buildings and grounds, someone that's maybe interested in construction management, something in the trades, I think that would be really valuable. I think each and every committee could have someone matched up within the high school, or even, I suppose ninth grade too, all the way up to seniors. I would love to have a presentation from each of the different, like you said, NHS and different divisions of the high school presenting at every meeting, just to have a flavor of what's going on within the student body. So I think that's a good place to start, whether it grows into be something more, just see how that works first, and then kind of bring it up to maybe the level of the board, having to chair at the board. It's a big commitment for students. They're very busy, especially if their athletics and their education comes first, but it would still give them a flavor for, what it's like in the world. So I think that's what I think would be a good way to start.
Thank you, Member Corcoran. I believe Member Olson was next.
I agree with everything Julie and Alex just said. I'm all for having more student voices, but I think we need to start at a reasonable level, and taking on a student as a school board member is a huge endeavor. It requires a lot of training. And where is this student? We're not seeing a whole lot of involvement as it is, so we need to start somewhere. So if we could get a student on every committee, or at least that would be our goal over the next couple of years, let's start there and get the students involved. And then, like Julie said, we'll see where it progresses.
Thank you, Member Olson. Member Tyson, you're next.
Well, I fully concur with everyone. I think I 100% agree that student voice is so valuable to the work we do, and that we should have opportunities for them to speak directly to the board, whether it's through a report. My experience, that's kind of a success story, and I'll share it quickly, is with a student that I served on policy committee with 2 years in a row. He used the letter of recommendation that I wrote for him from the policy committee for his application to college. He was getting a political science degree, which he has now, from the University of Lincoln at Nebraska. And then he went on to use it for an internship. And I'm like, well, do you want me to update it? I just reflecting on this, because this topic has come up, and I do want to thank the fellow board members that brought it forward, and the board chair for bringing it up for discussion so we can have this talk. But, it was such a good success story for him to be on policy committee that I think it's only more valuable if more students can have that opportunity as well. And I think, our meetings are very granular, and like Member Olson said, I think, school board for new members is a learning curve. So we would really want to set this student up with success, and they need training and mentoring. And so that could be done. But I think high school years are so fluid, and activities and their education is so important too, that I think that's just a tall ask to come to a meeting once a month and commit to that. So I'm really all for that idea of getting more kids on our committees and having a report at the meeting.
Thank you, Member Tyson. Member Luthner, I believe you were next.
Yes, thank you. I'll put my hand down. I have a couple things, and I have been one of the more advocating for this type of position, because I think that while students on committees is a very valuable thing to bring in voice, we all know there's a big difference between a board viewpoint and a committee viewpoint. So offering the opportunity for a student to take a place at a board table, I think, is incredibly valuable and different. And so they may still also be on committees as we are, but having the experience of seeing everything that goes on in all the buildings, it will be eye-opening. I know it was for me as a board member, and I was in the PTO. I was a very active parent, and that was great. And then I was a committee member, and that was good too. But there were still surprises about what I really learned as a board member. And I think that that's an opportunity that is different and unique than what a student can have on a committee meeting. Both are good. I also think that if we're looking at the world right now, our school district is a top-down. So information ultimately comes from the state. It comes to our administration. Administration digests it. The school board approves it. It's turned into policy. It goes to building administrations. It goes to teachers, and then it goes to children. And everybody in that ladder has access to us more than the students. There's a lot of business theories that show that you can make better, more well-rounded decisions if there's people at every level. So there should be a student at the highest level. of our school administration. We can't put somebody in the state, but within the system that we control, we can put a student on the same level as the board and senior administration as a voice. And it's a circular process. We'll learn from them, they'll learn from us, they talk to their peers, and we learn from them. And we're talking about, this is a time commitment, it is for us too. We don't have to have a student representation. We just need to be allowed to have a student and a process to allow a student. So what I'm thinking we're asking is, can we get a mechanism to allow a student on the school board? And that does not mean that magically in September or January we'll have a student. But if we have a process for somebody who is interested to join the board, someone may rise to the occasion. If this is something we offer specifically to somebody, then that's something we specifically offer. And there's so many ways that we could possibly tailor this position to present to the student body. And like a couple of you have said, this is a very unique resume builder, not just a scholarship for the position itself, but any other scholarship. If I saw this as a scholarship reader, as somebody who was literally on a school board of a well-respected school district, that's an eye-opener. And that's an opportunity that we're literally denying by not allowing a student to even ask to be on our board. So I kind of think that if we round out a policy that allows it, then we see who comes and that option is open. By not allowing it, by saying, let's wait a couple years, let's try and do committees first, it's just keeping the door closed until, I guess, the perfect opportunity arises. And at that point, it might be too late. There could be a freshman right now thinking, I'd love to do political science, or a junior or a senior. And if we wait 3 years, they're just gone. So they're only in the district for 12 years. And it sounds like we're talking about only giving this to high school students, which is something we can decide. But those high school students only have 4 years. So right now, the freshmen don't even have that opportunity. It's only the seniors do not have that opportunity. If you're starting as a freshman this year, how many years might you be on the board? And I think it doesn't hurt us at all to allow the option. We are not compelling ourselves to make someone do it. So those are my thoughts on the subject, but it's a good business practice to have someone at the consumer level be at the administration level, and just like we're in the classrooms. So that concludes my thoughts.
Thank you, Member Luthner. Member Rayfield, I believe you have your hand up next.
Yeah, thank you, Member Chair. I've got a couple of points on this, and I've thought about this for many years. One thing I do believe is that this is an elected position, right? Is that the public has decided, and oftentimes between different people who have long campaigns talking about who's going to be on the board, right? It's an elected position. And so the idea of taking somebody unelected, let's say we said we wanted an adult to be on the board. Well, that would not be appropriate because we're elected, we're answerable to the public by losing a future election, not getting reelected. And so that's one thing to think about is that I don't think there's a good way that you could have a student on the board that had any real power other than advice, right? And which I'm not arguing against, but I'm just saying that we have to be careful to understand that we are elected to this position. We are directly answerable to the public. And we know that, and we understand that, right? And oftentimes we're elected because of our experience through a number of different positions throughout the school district or life experiences that we have. The public feels like, oh, I think this guy or this gal has the kind of experience where they'd have some good insight into how to run a district. So that's point number one. I think point number two is that being on the school board for a student, I've watched students in the audience, oftentimes the political science class will say you need to go to one of these meetings. And it's painful to watch them because it's not a particularly interesting experience, right? Most of our arguing is done in committee, right? Most of a board meeting by design is after we've come to some agreement in the committees, it's all been vetted, it's all been decided. Most of what we deal with, we've already decided before it comes to the board. That's by design, because in the committee meetings is where you can make intelligent input into how these things happen. And then it comes to the board, it's written out, we understand it, we present it to the public with the first reading, and we vote on it with the second reading, right? And so it's really the committee meetings where that kind of discussion and input really gets fed in, right? It's also fed in through the emails and stuff. Third, I guess I would say, I agree with Member Luthner. We want to hear from the students because their experience is critical. It's their parents paying for their education. We want to hear from them, right? And I believe that having a report at the beginning of the meeting where the students can talk about the issues that are important to them, not the ones that come up on the agenda, right? A student's not going to be able to want to look at the budget thing we just passed and think about that and give some input to that. They're going to want to talk about issues that are relevant to them because that's going to be the things that we're missing, right? We understand the budget. We know all about that, right? But we don't know what's necessarily going on with a student at the high school or the students at the high school. And I think so that having a student report at the beginning is a perfect place for us to hear what's going on with the students. And it's a place where a student can feel like they've got some impact because they can think about it ahead of time. They can talk about the issues important to them and they can present it to the board. So I think the committee positions, if you're a student who's interested in political science, that's where the sausage gets made. That's a great place for them. If you want to hear about the students' issues, I think the beginning of the meeting is a great place for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Rayfield. I see no other hands up. Member Luthner?
I mean, I can just respond a little bit. I hear you that lots of kids don't like sitting through the meeting. We're not looking for dozens of them. We're looking for one. And there are people who don't know what they don't know. And a lot of them are in high school. And when you have a reason to sit through the whole meeting, you learn stuff. You learn about budgets and you learn about retirements and you learn maybe not everything is the top of your list of things to learn, but they could just attend meetings. That's absolutely true. But to be clear, we do the board business publicly in this meeting. Like, yes, a lot goes on in committee meetings, except there's only 2 of us on any given committee. So when we meet together, that's when we actually go through it. And our board is great where we agree on a lot of things. We have a really great administration. We don't have a lot of contentious issues. So it appears that so much is done behind the scenes, but literally, other than crafting the language, things are not done behind the scenes. We can argue, we can debate, we can discuss, and we did during the COVID times, and we did when things come up. So I just want to make sure that it's clear that we do have the ability to and have debated specific issues in the boardroom, in public, virtually or in person. And that's whether a student participates in that or not, they're still witnessing it, which is important. And finally, your first point with the elected official, that is true. Like, it's absolutely true. We were all elected. We went through the process to get elected. And this member would not be voting. So this would be a honorary position. And there are many, 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 many school districts that already have students on their school board. We're not leading edge here. I'm just really hoping we're not tail end. Like, we would be solidly in the middle by following this protocol of having the opportunity and the option to have a student sit at the board table. And I tend to agree. A report from them would be fabulous. That's almost above and beyond what the scope of the MSBA has said. So, but giving them a report on what's going on with them, they should also hear what's going on with everybody else. So I think the entire process is important. And I think it will appeal to a student now and then. Not every single year, not every single student, but writing off the entire past, present, and future, because we haven't seen it, obviously, I think is doing a disservice.
Thank you, Member Luthner. Member Tyson, I see you put your hand back up.
Thank you, Member Chair. Well, Member Luthner, I think you make some excellent points, and you've definitely given this a lot of thought. I still go back to feeling like it's a little bit of the cart before the horse. I've worked with students on committees, for a long time. I've talked to the DeSabrino girl about how would you rep Haley Goulden. Garrett Swanson's reply was, nope, Gail, 1 hour is good for me. So I haven't felt that the students that we have had on committees have had an interest in being a school board member. But I do like some of your points that you make. I also think that Member Rayfield makes an excellent point that I feel strongly about, is the work is done in committees and the interactiveness is in committees, and that's what students crave. They don't want to sit and listen to redundant, roll calls and first readings. And I just don't feel that, having had high schoolers myself and graduates of Forest Lake High School. I just think that that's a tall ask. So my other concern that I'm just going to quickly put out there, because I have brought it up, is it equitable? We have 286 miles in our district. We have kids from Scandia, from out to East Bethel border. I mean, do they have transportation? Do they have a car? Does parents have to be relied on to drive them? I mean, is it equitable for any student in any part of our big district to take on this opportunity that you say to be a school board member? I just don't think it's equitable. I mean, my daughters, if we still lived in Scandia, would drive 40 minutes one way. So I'm concerned that it just wouldn't be equitable, and it would just, not be there for everybody to take advantage of if we did go forward. And I think we have to do it with consistency. I don't see this in my mind as doing it 1 year because there was one person interested and then not doing it the next year. I think we have to set this person up for success and be mentoring them. But thank you. I think that you have some really good opinions on this.
Thank you, Member Tyson. Member Olson, I see you put your hand up.
Yeah, Kate, I think you have some really good points, and I would not be opposed to maybe starting to form a policy of what this would look like, what training would be required, but I don't think it can happen tomorrow or even maybe by September. I think we would need to do our research and make it a really robust policy for if a student approached us and was very interested. I mean, because they're not paid, they're not getting any credits. I'm having a hard time seeing what the motivation for that person would be. But if they came to us and were really excited for this, because that's how it would have to happen. We're not going to go out and try and handpick somebody and say, will you please be on the board? And that would be like pulling teeth, it sounds like. But like I said, I wouldn't be opposed to starting to formulate that policy.
Thank you, Member Olson, and I would like to weigh in on this myself. So I couldn't agree more with all of the sentiment, and I really appreciate the fact that Member Olson just made Member Rayfield's point that if we're going to consider this, it should be kicked back to the policy committee to start and build a policy, which is where all of the sausage is made, is on the various committees, in my opinion. Most of the time, by the time it gets to the board, it is very much we're bringing out. I can think of maybe a couple of times in my tenure on the board where we took a policy or an item that came out of committee and then modified it at the board level and went against the committee's recommendation. It happens so very rarely with this board that we don't take what the hard work that our committee members and we value that hard work that those committee members put together and therefore act generally in that direction that the committee worked. I also had some concerns, or would have some concerns so I agree that we're not going to go out and find and force somebody, obviously beg them to be on the school board, but how would we determine between students, how would we decide that student A over student B or student C if there was demand for the position because they're not elected? So then are they being appointed? And then how's that process of appointment going to be done? And what criteria or qualifications will we set forth in order to do so? But a larger concern of mine came to mind as I pondered everything that Member Raphael brought up early in the meeting about what a year this has been. And when I think about the pandemic and the politics and the public outrage and all of the things that have transpired in this state, I would not want to be a student who then spoke up or said something in a public meeting that is recorded for posterity that maybe later I regretted in life. And while it could be an amazing resume builder to have been on the board, it could be a career destroyer as well. And so that's something else to ponder, where a student, in a board meeting said something that later in life they would wish they hadn't. I can tell you, I'm really thankful that there were no phones that recorded video when I was 16 and 17 and probably 18, 19. There was a few years there that, let's just say, I'm really happy that my life wasn't on video like most of these kids these days. So those things would be concerns, but that being said, I'm not opposed to it wholly or fundamentally, but I would like to see more participation in the committee level and then gauge the demand from there, in my opinion. And I don't know if Member Tyson or Member Olson, your hand is still up from the last time, or if you wanted to speak again.
I'm good. Thank you, Member Chair.
Thank you. So,
Can I just say,
Member Raphael?
yeah, I just wanted to thank everybody for their opinions, especially Member Luthner. Yeah, this is a really interesting topic. It brings up a lot of issues about the board, and I'm glad that we had a good conversation about it.
Do we have any further discussion? All right. Well, thank you everyone for that topic. And I would echo what Member Raphael said. I do appreciate everyone's opinion on this topic, and maybe this is something we should refer to committee for some more discussion in the future. With that, we will move on.
Mr. Chair, let me jump in. And for a point of clarification, I'd be looking for next step. If the next step is, let's talk about it again, then we can figure out a timeline for that. If it's bring it to policy, we can set that piece in motion. I would offer that this could be a policy, doesn't need to be a policy. It could be a procedure developed administratively, presented to the board, modified, adjusted at the board level. There are a number of options in terms of how to proceed. Another option is, let's sit on it. But I would be looking for some direction as to next steps that you might direct administration.
Member Raphael? You're muted, Member Raphael.
It seems like we kind of had consensus around the idea of, I think, around the idea of having a student report. I think maybe a way to move forward would be to try to put together a policy for that, kind of figuring out how to pick who would even do that, who would represent the student body, whether it be two people or whether it be leaders from different groups or whatever. I think that would be a really fun policy to put together, and then in September start seeing the fruits of. Well, although we don't have a policy committee, but at some point, I don't know. I just throw that out there.
And Mr. Chair, I'd ask for clarification from the board on whether or not this is envisioned as a policy, an official board adopted policy, or a developed set of procedures that account for selection, role, how frequent, etc.
Member Luthner, I see you put your hand up.
Yeah. So a question on that. My first instinct is policy because the policies exist in book and digital format, and they're easy-ish to look through. If I wanted to know the policy on medication, I go and look. If there's a procedure that is public and publicized and available to the students, then that would be equally good. It doesn't have to be a policy, but right now, and Member Tyson speaks to equity, right now we're handpicking people we happen to know and asking them to be on committees. And that's not public. That's not being on the announcements in the high school. That's not being publicized in a handbook. That's people networking and knowing somebody and being asked and apparently saying no most frequently. But there needs to be that mechanism has not worked of personally going around and asking people. So we need a policy or a procedure or something that actually gets the information to the students' eyes and ears that say, we want your participation on a variety of different levels, whether it's a report or committees or a full board member or just emails. But I've heard nothing from students in 2 years. So I'd like to move forward with a policy because that's the way I know that it will be published. But if a procedure is equally as robust about publishing, that would be fine too. But sitting on this saying we're going to sit on this means it's just not like maybe we talk about it next year. So we've lost another senior class or another junior class. So more people don't get even the opportunity. So I'd like to see something nothing happens instantly. But if we can get something rolling with some real dates, my one third concern is the policy committee. We've never written, in my time on it, we've never written a policy. They've always been read and then modified. So if we can write a policy, that would be great. But otherwise, I do bow to the people who have doctorate's degrees in education about how this would be most educationally valid. So that tends to say administration should have something of a recommendation.
Yeah. So what I would offer, Mr. Chair, then would be, I guess I would present to the board that if we do have a set of procedures, I would envision that residing on the school board webpage, as we have other information there. In fact, our policies are listed there. This could be established, well-developed, board-approved procedures that then reside there and are open and public and transparent to the public. So that is the option and the mechanism for having this be transparent and available to the public and our students. Policies, as we all well know, are well-established, listed and available to the public. So I think there are either options, and we can make either work, quite frankly. And I'm not sure that I have a specific recommendation, although I would say that procedures are more easily modified on the fly, where policies require board committee adjustment, modification, and approval. Procedures we can adjust with conversation on the fly. So there is that benefit.
Thank you, Dr. Massey. And I see Member Tyson has her hand up next. You're on mute.
Thank you. So Member Luthner, I just have to say that that's not my perception of student participation. I know a former teacher, Stennis Rodness, would refer students, and they were not handpicked. It would be a referral. This is when they meet. This is the time. And that's what I think we need more of with our teaching staff and our administration at the high school. And like you said, a procedure that could be on the website and could be easily changed. I am for a lot of the things that Member Corcoran and Member Rayfield talked about and Member Ketto. Let's start with getting engagement on our committees and then gauge from there if we want to move forward with the student board member.
Thank you, Member Tyson. Member Corcoran, you're next.
Yeah, I just wondered if the MSBA has something, I'm sure they do, that we can ask, and maybe they have a procedure already in place that we can just reference, or a policy or something. Because I mean, especially if they've encouraged people to have students on their boards, they must have something. So that would be a great place for us to start. I think, there's such a great opportunity for our students. So, I don't want to not give people opportunities, but I guess we just have to see the interest. Who's interested and how much time do they have to even put forth in any of these situations? So I guess that's really the key, is to talk to teaching staff and, administration, but also just to talk to MSBA and find out a good place to start.
Thank you, Member Corcoran. You beat me to the punch. That's where I was going to head after I've been around. Member Ketto, I see you put your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to add to Member Corcoran's comments. Since I brought it up in the first place, the MSBA, when I attended the meeting, there were school districts that presented that were very, very positive about this. And I was just going to add, just what the last two of you have said, that, we should check with MSBA because they're the ones offering the scholarship that, piqued my interest originally for a student. So I think we just check with them, and we could check with some of those districts that are doing it and those award winners that are getting those scholarships. So outside of our district.
Thank you, Member Ketto. And Member Tyson, before I go to you, I would wonder if we would entertain directing administration to bring us back the policy or procedure from several districts who currently have a student board member, and then also bring us any potential MSBA guidance on having a student board member, and then bring this back up for discussion in August, because that would time out with the beginning of the next school year if we were going to act on it. And Member Tyson, then I will go to you.
I'm recalling that the superintendent shared this with all of us, because I have read, and I know I reviewed it recently when this has been being discussed, what MSBA put out. Did you send that, Steve, or did I request that from them myself? But I have read that. Do you recall, Steve, if you sent that out to all the board members? MSBA's policy, and they were quoted as to what they think, their opinions.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, what I would say is, I believe that MSBA has provided some guidance and framework. I don't believe they have a model policy, but I don't want to commit to that. I would need to do more research.
Okay.
Thank you, Member Tyson. Member Rayfield, I see you have your hand up. You're on mute.
I would just say, if what we're talking about was having some students do reports, and I think it should not be on policy, it should probably be on whatever the other one was, because it's, okay, well, let's have some people go at the beginning of the meeting. We'll figure out a way to do it. And then we try that. And if it's not working, we'll try something else, right? And I remember, Luthner, I agree that policy is critical sometimes if you want to know if they're important, if there's issues where you really want to know that something's set in stone. But I think for having students report, I don't think it needs to be a policy. If we're talking about having a student on the board, then I think it's going to have to be policy. But I don't think that we've come to consensus that we wanted to go to policy and have policy write up a policy that will come before the board to have a student on the board yet. But maybe, I don't know.
I would concur that currently there's not a consensus to have a student on the board formally. So with that, if it would please the board, I would direct administration to bring back some research on other districts that currently have a student on the board, and a procedure with which we would get students appointed to committees or recommended for committees in the future, and a procedure for which we would entertain a student report and what that would look like. I see a lot of head nodding. So with that, I will take that as a consensus of a majority of the board and direct administration to move forward with research on policies or procedures for student board members and reports from students at the board level. And we will bring this up for discussion again in August. All right. Thank you, everyone. I really appreciate the good, vigorous debate on this topic. With that, we will move to 9.2, the first reading of the middle school course of study redesign. Dr. Massey?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will be extremely brief and turn it over to Principal J.P. Jacobson and provide the recommendation that's coming out of extensive work under his leadership with committees at the middle school for the course redesign. JP, thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Member Chair Peterson and members of the board. Thanks for letting me join you tonight and to give you an update on some of the academic work that's been underway in the district, specifically at the middle school level. As my presentation comes up, I would be dishonest if I didn't tell you that I am proud. I'm excited about the work that this committee has done over a number of months and many hours. And I hope by evening's end and when I'm done with my slides that you are similarly pleased with the outcome of this committee's work. I think it's important as we approach this first reading on the middle school course of study that we start with the beginning. That is our strategic plan. All of this work was born out of our strategic plan that was put together last year. We had a number of community members, parents, district personnel that were involved in that work. And as we did it, we developed a focus area around excellence in career, college, and future preparedness that had 2 action steps that spoke directly to this work. The first being around developing gateway experiences in each of the career pathway areas for Forest Lake students when in the 7th and 8th grade. And during that time to continue to expand the number of times that we have students beginning to dream about, not choosing, but dream about and consider career options and seeing real life application in the day-to-day learning that they're doing at school. We pulled together and we looked at the framework already adopted within the school district around career pathways. This is a framework that was developed with industry input and has been used at the high school for a few years. And what we see right now is an opportunity to bring this framework down, create greater synergy between our 2 secondary levels, that being the middle school and our high school and community school, and have students begin to take entry-level experiences when in the 7th grade in each of these areas. And you'll see the creative way by which this committee was able to make that happen. Speaking of the committee, you will see that we have a wide cross-section of staff who did this work. You'll see names on this slide that are across different buildings, a variety of departments, all having put many hours, countless hours into research, into discussion, debate, which we all know that we need to feel comfortable with, and ultimately putting together some themes that were passed forward and organized into a course of study that I'll share with you in a moment. The last time I was with the full board on March 4th, I was telling you about the process, and at that time, they were designing a statement to drive what learning looks like. This wasn't a small part in the process or even an unimportant one. This is a critical one for us, and I'll share with you why in a moment, why it is so. Since that time, I've been invited to both the staff welfare committee twice to give an update, as well as the curriculum instruction and equity committee to do updates. Actually, I think I've met with staff welfare 3 times at this point. Once before the process even started to outline what the work was and to talk about what the process itself. I'm glad to share that tonight I have a finished product for a first reading for you to look at as a result of all this work. And it's really important to remember that the first reading is around the learning statement and the course of study. We still have work to do in actually getting down and developing the scope and sequence of all of these courses. Okay. And so this is for implementation, not for this fall, but for the fall of 2022. I think that's a critical, important element to keep in mind. Okay. Whenever you have really important conversations as a team, it's important to start off with, here are the ways in which we're going to have these conversations. And here are the operating principles that we started with. Agenda item B, after introductions on the first meeting, we went through these and we settled what these were. And then as the group went through a learning process that involved looking at our career pathway as the district and understanding that as a deep level, looking at the statistics out of the Bureau of Labor Statistics on the future of jobs, talking to focus groups of students that have gone through the middle school level, through local employers, getting feedback along the way from the wider middle school staff, the group, and then of course, really making sure that we understood what the district strategic plan was asking of us here. The group created what in industry we talk about as a gap analysis or a guiding change document. The left of this document being, this is how the group described our current reality. This is us today. That's what we look like in the mirror. And on the far right, once this is operationalized at a high level, this is what we need to be. And in the middle were the ways in which we were not going to do this, the pitfalls that we were going to avoid along the way. And I just draw your attention real quickly to some really important ones that I think that are critical, that we were not going to make it about the staff or about the job security. It's what's in the best interest of our clientele, kids, that we're not going to get caught up in, we got to have this because I like to teach it. No, we're going to say that we need to have this because it's future relevant, right? That we don't get tethered to, well, we're going to stay that way because, it's always the way schools have done things. That's, that we're building our future, though we appreciate our past. And that we don't think about, we don't get stuck in our own lanes and think about our own departments and subject areas, but we have to consider the greater good as we figure out how do we use finite resources like student time. And then they created, these are the really important outcomes, that we want a streamlined, clear, visible pathway that families and kids can interpret and get really excited about as they leave sixth grade and get ready for the seventh grade and eighth grade experience. That we want that experience to involve kids having career experiences in each of the career pathways, and that they begin to touch on multiple career experiences all around that wheel. Ultimately with a goal that kids find something that they didn't maybe know that they were interested in, that we're turning on passions, that where they're seeing relevance and application in their learning. So I'm going to unveil the first part. This is our learning statement. This is one of the first components that they put together. And we knew that we needed to not only change the color of our paint on our car, that being maybe the courses that kids are taking, but what does the dynamic of learning look like as we build these courses? And this is what that team spent hours putting together, that we want to design experiences where students learn to respect and see value in themselves and in others. Gosh, that has great connection to various parts of our strategic plan. That we want students to be able to collaborate effectively, to ask really good questions and think critically about the answers to those questions, that they can connect and apply their skills and passions to real world, that their skills that they learn are transferable, that they can innovate solutions to complex problems, and they see struggle as a healthy step towards success. Now, we know that 40 years ago, learning in many of our classes looked like kids all faced toward the front, listening to a teacher share information that they then copied down and tried to remember. And I would probably argue that wasn't a great learning model 40 years ago. It doesn't really reflect what happens in our classrooms today, but we know that we need to continue to evolve in that regard. So as we're designing these new courses, the ones that I'm going to share with you in a moment in our course of study, this is going to be a cornerstone for that design work. Similarly, in our existing courses, this will exist in our professional development, in our professional learning community conversations around when teachers sit down to revise new units, that we want kids doing these things as they're learning in every one of their classes. This is the course of study in the 7th and 8th grade that the team really got excited about. They went through a visioning process where they created themes and what they wanted it to look like as it connects to the feedback that we got from our user groups and the direction of the strategic plan. And when they saw this for the first time, we got a lot of, that makes sense to me. They saw their work reflected into this 2-year academic plan. And I'll just explain it to you here in case it's not overly intuitive. Students take 7 courses each day when at the middle school, other than outside of their advisory. And students going forward will continue to take a year-long experience in the 4 core content areas: math, English, science, and social studies. And then what we did is we took the career wheel and we broke it into 3-quarter length experiences in the 7th grade and 3 more in the 8th grade. Along with, in 7th grade, students will take Phy-Ed on an every other day basis, opposite a choice in an arts. And I'll share with you why in a moment that we had to do it that way. The arts options are visual arts, band, choir, and orchestra. And one of the things pushing on this process, in addition to the strategic plan and the feedback that we were getting and the thoughts of the design team, was we are in the midst of some arts requirement shifts at the state level, in which we now need to offer 3 and require 2 experiences in different arts areas when in the 7th and 8th grade. So the 3 areas that we offer going forward will be media arts, visual arts, and music. And we offer 3, and students will be required to take 2. And that's why you see it reflected in this way. Also, in 7th grade, students will take a quarter-long health course that will lead into a health sciences experience in 8th grade. Rounding out 7th grade, students will have an opportunity to choose between a semester length of world language, or if they don't take world language, they would take a 21st century literacy course, which I'll describe here on a high level in a moment. And then they would have a semester of a healthy living beyond careers course. Moving over to the right in 8th grade, we have the 4 core content areas. The design team liked the notion of putting 3 of the career pathway experiences in 8th grade, along with a media arts course. And students would take Phy-Ed for a semester and then have some elective options there. And those elective options might be 2nd level electives in the different career pathway areas. So I took a course and I want to take more courses, the next course in that sequence, or they might be parallel courses. Students a course that might not have to have a prerequisite already completed in that career pathway area. Now, we put a lot of intelligence or thought into placing these career pathways in the grade levels that we did. The team felt that some of the learnings in the career pathway areas in the 7th grade could assist in some of the courses that we put in career pathway areas in the 8th grade. As an example, if you look in the 7th grade area, we have the team placed a arts communication and information systems course. That's going to be a digital arts course that's going to bring in components of digital art and marketing and advertising, those skills that you would need that if you were going to participate in a business course in the 8th grade. Or for example, students that are that take Health 7 or Human Services and the Human Services course, they'll be able to bridge that learning, and it'll find utility in the Health Sciences course that we have in design for the 8th grade. So this is where the staff saw, wow, that's what all of our conversation looked like. That makes sense. And the next 2 slides is where people got really excited. Here are some high-level course renderings that we put together to begin to get our groups, that captured our group's conversation, that we thought were really engaging for kids, and developed that connected well with our learning statement and what we believe that kids need going forward. So here are some concepts around our career pathway entry-level courses. A human services course, that's kind of a be the change sort of course, a course where we put kids in groups to research and develop understanding and empathy around real life problems, either in their local or broader community. And then based on that understanding, that research, and that empathy, design a solution to what that problem might be. We talked about an arts communication information course that would be, as described a moment ago, a digital arts and media course where they learn to create human-centered marketing and advertising products and different types of art that might lend themselves to storytelling. We conceptualized an agriculture, food, and natural resources course, a quarter-length course around the farm-to-table process and how humans leverage the natural resources and agribusiness systems to support society. The business management and administration course, that the team really got their brains wrapped around putting kids in small groups in like a Shark Tank-like course, where they, within that groups, they develop entrepreneurial skills and understandings. They have the opportunity to create and develop and market a product or service that perhaps doesn't exist yet. The team talked about a health sciences course where students learn about body systems and human reproduction, first aid, and how chemicals can impact the human body, and how the healthcare system supports society and all of us. And then lastly, in the career pathway areas, an engineering, manufacturing, and technology course centered on the principles of design and engineering used to create and build projects, both using computer-aided drafting and traditional woodworking tools, so that as we funnel kids into the high school, they get a sense of both the pre-engineering end of our technology department and the trades end of our technology department, and get a sense of whether they would enjoy a career in that area. In the
JP, could I interrupt for just a second?
Yeah.
Could you go back a slide?
Gladly.
I'm wondering if human services isn't the right term for that. I mean, because human services is already used. Isn't that what the county uses right? And I wonder if something like maybe problem solving or positive change or any of the words used in there could better describe that. But I don't need you to answer it now. I just bring it up.
I think that's a really great point, Member Raphael. I don't think that necessarily these are the final names of these courses. We use these titles because those are the titles on our career pathway wheel currently. All of these courses might be named something different at some point. But thank you. That was a glaring omission on my part, so I appreciate you asking the question. Similarly, and stop me along the way if you need to. The 2 other courses that I wanted to describe to you was the 21st Century Literacy course. This is the course that students would take in the 7th grade if they don't take a world language, and it's around growing students in the area of text comprehension, both print and, quite honestly, the different skills that might go into reading text online. We are, as a society and as humans, reading more text online every day. And so if there's unique skills that go along with that, there are. And we want to teach kids what those are, including as well as the elements of online research and just general effective communication skills, both in person and through digital formats. And then lastly, the committee felt like, yes, our work is really pointed toward making sure that kids have good data on which to make pathway-related decisions and career, so that they know what careers they want to go into. But they also felt we lose if we forget that we also are preparing kids for life outside of careers and enjoying life in that regard and being healthy. So they talked about a healthy living beyond the careers course. Again, not final name yet, but a course designed around how to eat healthy, how to make nutrition-dense foods, how to establish healthy relationships. And they felt, based on some of the feedback that we got from 11th and 12th graders, that this would be a great place to insert some early financial literacy skills. Maybe not how to invest in the market or how a loan is amortized, but how do you manage money well as a teenager and a young adult, right? That's where some of the skills that kids said, I would like some help on that. And so this is the area where our design team members got excited, really excited for students taking these courses. And quite honestly, being able to take these renderings and add more detail to them, and in terms of a full course scope and sequence, and being able to teach these courses. Okay. So with all of that, like I said, this is the first reading. The feedback beyond that, we spent some time with our design team and then with the larger middle school staff presenting the same presentation that I just shared with you. The feedback was very excited, very positive. We had a couple of suggestions that we spent some time on. We pulled back together as a group and we looked at them. We just felt like this particular model best met the goals of what the design team felt were important and what was directed to them to the work to do within the strategic plan. So I feel like I'm excited to share this with you, and I am going to open it up for any further comments or questions.
Member Luthner, I see you have your hand up.
Thank you. And this is, I really appreciate they really get to try a lot of things they would not have necessarily chosen. One thing that I don't see that used to be an option or is an option still, coding. Is that in one of those pockets?
So that is a really good question. We have not designed the media arts and arts and communication courses at a high level yet. Coding is certainly going to have a place in our model. What very well could happen, Member Luthner, is that coding might be an elective course that happens in the 8th grade. I don't know yet whether the design team will put that in one of the 2 media arts courses, but it might be an option for kids who want to do it. Right now, it's currently an option for students in the video game design class. But I would say that it's likely going to find its place someplace in our program. It might also exist on some levels within our pre-engineering class that you saw.
Right. And I don't know how it loops into the high school, but I know in elementary schools, there's been a lot of emphasis on coding hours and coding courses and having them really get some foundation in it. And whether they do it a little bit in many different courses or a course that is more about coding, I could see it working lots of ways. I just don't want it completely forgotten. And then I know it's getting late, but my middle school did the stock market. We did. Maybe it was because we were close to Wall Street, but it was a component of our curriculum. We did the stock market game every year. So I appreciate knowing my stuff about the market.
Yeah. Not to be forgotten is that we have a course at the high school that is an elective course where students do have an opportunity to learn about the market. That course might draw students' interest into that. Yeah,
I think mine was in social studies, but it sounds like I really like that they'll be exposed to more things overall.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Member Luthner. Member Rayfield, you were next.
Yeah, thank you. Principal Jacobson, so let's say if we approve this, what comes next?
So there would be a second reading during the third meeting on the June 24th meeting.
Right.
If given approval, then what we would begin to do is start to pull teachers in to start to write these courses for our registration guide. So to take these course renderings and start to add greater detail to them and propose electives for us to include in all of this. We're going to have a way by which we look at those electives closely and make sure that they also are preparing kids for career options, that we're creating really future relevant and high value electives as part of that. But then if given approval, we would begin that course development work.
Okay, it was just a minor point. I appreciate it was so easy to understand, right? I mean, I was a little worried with all the philosophy that went into it, and then all of a sudden it's very clear, it's easy to understand. I think that's a critical component to being able to communicate this. So thank you.
Awesome, absolutely.
So let me just add that in 2 weeks, it'll be the July meeting held in June. We'll be asking your approval for the framework. We'll come back to you when the courses get approved for course approval. But the first step is the approval of the framework that has quite a bit of structural change to the student experience, as you can see here.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Member Rayfield. Thank you, Dr. Massey. Member Tyson, I see you have your hand up. Nope. Member Tyson?
Okay. Thank you, JP, for all this work. I'm really proud of this work, around the middle school piece within our strategic plan. It's so important. And I want to thank you and your dedicated committee for analyzing that high school career wheel. And now that I see the course rendering concepts, you can see how they line up so well. I also want to, you talk with a lot of conviction about this, and it just comes across, and I'm sure your committee feels the same way, that this is really incredible work. What my question is how do we deliver this news and this change to the parents?
Yeah, so we have already reached out to Renee Reedy and Barb Pedersen to work on a communication plan and maybe organize this in such a way that is even more polished than how a middle school principal puts these things together. So we will use that team to help communicate with our parents. Parents were part of the process. This conversation started long before we sat down in the high school media center and began working on a strategic plan. This was born out of a series of conversations when we opened as a middle school that involved parents, and parents were often talking about, I wish my students would had experiences in each of these areas, and they didn't have the opportunity to just skip over courses, because right now students use less than perfect data to make choices.
Member Tyson, did you have something?
I think he cut out, but I absolutely agree with that, JP. And I think for my experience, we never even were aware of the career wheel until, sophomore year. So I think the earlier we start, this alignment process just opens and broadens those pathways.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, and to that same point, Member Tyson, I think that any middle school teacher or principal would describe the middle school age as some of the most formative years in a person's life. It's when they figure out who their friends are, what they're good at, what they like in many regards. They discover new interests. And a model like this asks students to taste everything on their academic plate, so to speak. Now, we're not going to rob them of all choice and autonomy. Those are highly valued engagement strategies. What they're going to find is that they're going to have more personalization and choice embedded within the course. The courses themselves aren't going to be as maybe guided by the teacher as they were in the past. Instead, now as they're doing research on a product or on a service or on a solution, they're going to be searching for those in the areas that draw most of their interest. And I think in that way, students then get an opportunity to say, I tried that. Now I understand a little bit about that career field, and I know it's not for me. But I did not know that I had any interest in a pre-engineering course. And now I do. I'm going to try more courses in that area and maybe find something that unlocks a future career. So I would describe it in that way. And I think that as we work with parents, we'll do the same.
And by way of reminder, this goes into play for next year's sixth graders when they go into seventh grade. So there's a whole year of development once approved before implementation.
All right. I see no further hands up, and this was a first reading. So if there's no other questions for JP, we will move on. Thank you, JP, for the presentation. With that, we will move to 9.3, the first reading of immunization requirements.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As Member Luthner pointed out in her policy committee report, clearly, I want to reiterate, this policy update has nothing to do with COVID-19 vaccination or any requirement of that vaccination. And the only material change in this policy is an update to the form that communicates immunization requirements. And we'll ask for approval at the next board meeting.
All right. I see no hands up. That was the first reading. We will move right on to 9.4, the first reading, participation of private school students in District 831 programs. Dr. Massey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In the interest of making sure our policies get discussed at policy committee, this policy was brought to the committee for discussion, and there are no changes recommended by the committee.
All right. Thank you again. First reading, no action needed. We will move on to the first reading resolution approving the long-term facilities maintenance revenue. Director Martini.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. Good evening to everybody. So 916 handles their long-term facilities maintenance budget through its component districts. This is just a first reading, but they've got $108,700 of health and safety projects. Then they've got $33,300 of deferred capital expense and maintenance projects for a total of $142,000. Forest Lake's share then would be $9,668. And this be a first reading. We'll come back to you June 24th with the resolution and this information again to be incorporated within our tax levy process.
Thank you, Director Martini. I see no hands up. I think we will move on to the 9.6, first reading resolution approving long-term facilities maintenance revenue plan for Forest Lake area schools.
Again, Forest Lake has a rather large long-term facilities maintenance program. We're going to come back to you June 24th, and our level of spend is going to be in the neighborhood of $3.5 million. We have listed with Building and Grounds Committee over a couple of meetings the various projects, and we'll present at that meeting the 10-year expenditure plan, 10-year revenue plan, and the statement of assurances. But the real meat and potatoes is actually the large construction projects that we're focusing on. And so Building and Grounds Committee has ordered these in importance. First, working on the sports center, hard wall and roof for the second sheet of ice that's currently under the tent, and also IAQ upgrades for supply and ventilation. Then we're going to be looking at air handlers at the high school, looking at high school boilers, looking at the removal of Ed Center Forest View Middle School and Wyoming boilers. And that will probably take us out a good 5 to 7 years. To give you a perspective on the Sports Center, which would be a project for FY23, it wouldn't begin until July 1 of 22. So this is quite some time off, somewhere between $3 and $4 million. If anybody would like this slide set delivered to them, I can certainly present that to all board members when we conclude this evening. But also, we're going to be looking at a smaller build on the south side of the Sports Center, and also up here, we're going to be connecting them so the Zambonis don't have to travel outside. So those are the large pieces that we'll be looking at, but we'll also be dealing with asphalt projects, also dealing with roofing projects, and trying to get that all fit into the components. So with that, I can answer questions or comments, and if there aren't any, I will definitely, since member Dyson raised her hand, I'll share this out with all school board members this evening before I exit.
I see no hands up, and I do appreciate you sending out. Member Tyson, go ahead.
Director Martini, I just have a question about the long-term facilities maintenance. And I'm curious if this has ever been considered to do some type of repair or brickwork or whatever you call it on the Forest View Elementary kind of fascia, the front of the building, to improve the look and the lettering and
that's come up a couple of times. We've cleaned the top part closest to the roof, and it has not been to our level of satisfaction. So that is something that we keep asking Bill to look into other solutions. Because it's stone, I would really hate to paint it, but we're coming down to the idea that putting some sort of coating on it might be the only solution, because it is rather spotty or tarnished looking.
Yes, and I'm asked that by parents and community members. While they fixed up the inside, the outside still looks kind of like it needs some repair. So good to know. I'm glad that I figured you had the answer. So thank you.
I have the thought and the approach on it, but we don't have a solution yet. It may end up being some sort of coating.
I like that idea. Thank you, Larry.
All right. Thank you, Member Tyson. I see no other hands up. Any other questions for Director Martini? Hearing none. Dr. Massey, did you have anything further?
Nope. We will see you, if not before, at graduation with the reception starting at 5:45 Thursday in the High School Media Center.
Thank you. And I was going to remind everybody that they're still looking for volunteers for the all-night party. If anybody's interested, it's a lot of fun. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Jeff, real quick, Steve, you said Thursday. It's Friday, correct?
Excuse me. Thank you. It's just a test. To see if you're still paying attention to me. So, yes, Friday. And thank you for the floor. Wednesday is the community school celebration of their graduates and the STEP program as well.
Okay, I just missed that. When is that?
That is Wednesday.
What time?
11:30 for the community school, 1 o'clock for the STEP students.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right. And with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Member Clerk, would you please take a roll call?
Just so you know, we only had 7 roll calls today. So
Not bad.
yeah, not bad. Member Luther votes aye. Member Corcoran? Aye. Member Corcoran votes aye. Member Ketto?
Aye.
Member Ketto votes aye. Member Olson?
Aye.
Member Olson votes aye. Member Rayfield?
Aye.
Member Rayfield votes aye. Member Tyson?
Aye.
Member Tyson votes aye. Member Peterson?
Aye.
Member Peterson votes aye.
All right. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you, everyone.